times. Had their capital not been so far away, it would likely have fallen as well. Zheng Fan's policy was to steadily consolidate power, gradually encroaching on territories. He aimed to learn from the adversary's tactics, solidifying the areas he occupied, bringing local nobles' children to Chang'an for education, and encouraging immigration while sending officials to promote the language and cultural customs of the Tang dynasty. He wanted them to take pride in being subjects of the Tang, so that after a century, they would be accustomed to using Chinese characters and speaking standard Tang Mandarin, which would signify a complete occupation. To the north, the emerging powers of the Khitan and Shi tribes, the Shi Wei, and the Jurchen who were digging ginseng in the forests of Changbai Mountain, as well as Silla and Goryeo on the peninsula, were all key targets for conquest. Especially the Khitan on the northern grasslands and the Uyghurs to the west were priorities for vigilance, regularly dispatching officials or merchants, covertly conducting population surveys. Any tribe with over 10,000 members would be granted titles, and their children would be sent to Chang'an for training. Strong soldiers would be recruited and dispatched to the western region to strengthen defenses, occasionally causing difficulties for the distant adversaries, ensuring they could not develop in peace. In the southern regions of Hunan, Guangdong, and Yunnan Guizhou, it was still a wild and undeveloped area at that time. The military forces from the inland could not afford to be idle, so they took turns to train through combat, relocating those living in the deep mountains and forests, who were still under a system of servitude, to cultivate the land. The local bandit leaders, who had been passed down through generations, either moved to the capital or, for those who did not recognize the opportunity, were sent to the western borders for garrison duty. His heir, Li Kuei, had also begun to participate in governance. With Zheng Fan as a model, the young prince had not gone astray. He had learned Zheng's methods thoroughly. Even if he did not possess the extraordinary intellect of Zheng, he was unlikely to be a tyrant in the future. In terms of domestic affairs, the total population had already exceeded 100 million, and the wasteland had been largely cultivated. Zheng Fan attempted to reform the outdated military system, transitioning from the hereditary military system to a combined system of conscription and voluntary enlistment. In the early Sui and Tang dynasties, with a low population and vast wasteland, the hereditary military system was more suitable for the situation. Now, with the population multiplied several times, that system had become almost obsolete. Without the impetus of rebellion, military reform had lacked motivation, but the issues could not be ignored. Fortunately, with no external or internal threats, his reforms could be implemented gradually without causing significant turmoil. The entrenched power of prominent families posed a hidden danger to the central authority. They monopolized land, concealed populations, and dominated the examination system, which was one of the key reasons for the fall of the Tang dynasty. The two main figures responsible for the downfall, Huang Chao and Zhu Wan, were both from humble backgrounds. In the late Tang dynasty, with the fragmentation of power, those from lower classes had little hope of advancement, while the prominent families only cared for their own interests. Various factors led to the erosion of central authority, resulting in the tragic era of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms. Later, Zhao Kuangyin overcorrected by overly emphasizing civil over military matters, leaving the Han people unable to resist northern nomadic pressures, leading to a decline in strength over generations, which is lamentable. Zheng Fan had also contemplated solutions to this problem, and there were many discussions online in later generations. The simplest and most effective method was to shift from a head tax to a land tax. By implementing a progressive land tax system, the foundation supporting the existence of prominent families could be undermined, prompting them to divide their estates and preventing further land monopolization and population concealment, leading to their gradual decline. These reforms could not be achieved overnight, but fortunately, he had just ascended to the throne and had ample time. He planned to first implement these reforms in the newly established Hunan and Guangnan regions, where the newly cultivated land was vast and sparsely populated, and expand them nationwide once the effects were seen. Another long-term stability policy was education and the examination system. With no large-scale wars for years, the accumulated grain wealth in warehouses was a significant waste. He aimed to establish official schools in various local governments to expand the educated population and cultivate talent from humble backgrounds. The territory of the Tang was large enough to accommodate talent. He proposed to set up research institutes in the capital, encouraging research and development in astronomy, geography, physics, mathematics, and medicine. He planned to collect and translate books and documents from regions like the Middle East and Persia. The Tang dynasty was currently the most prosperous city in the world, lacking in neither talent nor resources. It simply needed the right guidance. As long as these individuals were given a platform, they would surely shine brightly. In the 4 to 5 years following his ascension, a series of policies began to be gradually implemented. Prior to becoming emperor, he had already been involved in governance for over a decade, accumulating sufficient prestige and means. Although these reforms affected the interests of many, as long as there was no outright rebellion, no one could stop their implementation. Those who acted insincerely were dealt with firmly, setting an example for others. A ruler must conduct himself rightly. If he does so, his commands will be followed without the need for orders. If he does not, even his commands will be ignored. The emperor's performance was beyond reproach, and many ministers in court had once taught him, having watched him grow up. He respected his teachers from a young age, was diligent in his words and actions, and displayed no signs of arrogance or extravagance. Since becoming an adult, he had only the empress by his side, not taking concubines, refraining from building luxurious palaces, and leading a simple life. His daily routine was regular, dedicating his time to governance, reading, practicing calligraphy, educating his children, and meditating. His conduct was exemplary. In his early years, a few princes had different ambitions, but they acknowledged that even if they were in his position, they could not do better, especially since they had not found an opportunity in over a decade and had since abandoned their thoughts. With plans in place and matters organized, the next step was to select talents and execute policies in an orderly manner. He began to devote more time to personal cultivation, reducing his court attendance to give his son room to learn and grow. He felt he was on the verge of a breakthrough in the realm that had eluded him since birth. It was at this moment that he recalled that this was supposed to be a cultivation game, and he wondered what he had been doing all these years. Cultivating was indeed challenging. Chapter 222 New Realm. The anticipated breakthrough never came, and time flew by swiftly. His daughter, Li Xiao'er, had grown to 18. The empress, Lu Yun, carefully selected an outstanding young man to be her husband, and she was married, thus becoming a wife and a mother. The crown prince, Li Kuei, had also reached the age to select a virtuous woman as a consort, a matter of great significance to the court that required meticulous attention. Lu Yun began to frequently summon the wives of officials to the palace for meetings, assessing candidates not only based on family background and appearance, but also on the character of their parents. With a rigorous set of standards where missing even one would disqualify a candidate, he no longer took these matters to heart, delegating them to his wife, who had experienced this process herself and had more expertise. His policy aimed to eliminate the powerful aristocratic families, but when it came to choosing spouses for their children, the offspring of these families were still prioritized as candidates. Their deep-rooted backgrounds allowed for a more systematic cultivation of their descendants, resulting in a higher success rate, a fact that could not be denied, and he did not reject it. The need to eliminate the aristocracy was a well-known principle among many wise individuals within those families, and the policies he implemented were straightforward and bold, without fear of opposition. Many of their family rules and teachings had been refined over generations, and when it came to educating their children, there were indeed many commendable aspects that could not be overlooked. Outstanding talents among the aristocracy would certainly be utilized, provided they made their positions clear, whether they prioritized national interests or family interests. Those who could align their priorities would be valued and employed, while those who could not would have to step aside. After a year of careful selection and summoning hundreds of candidates, Lu Yun finally chose a satisfactory daughter-in-law. That evening, she told Zheng Fan, "I only now realize how lucky I was to be chosen back then. If it were up to me, I might not have had the chance at all. Every action and decision is preordained. That's fate." Zheng Fan suddenly recalled the famous cat from quantum theory. Before the lid is opened, there are many possibilities. Once it is opened, only one possibility remains. Having spent over a decade in this dream, he was increasingly integrated into this era, and he found himself thinking less about the outside world. With many memories starting to feel blurred, Crown Prince Li Kuei held a grand wedding and had a son a year later, ensuring his legacy. Now a grandfather, Zheng Fan followed the customs of this time and began to grow a beard. Due to his cultivation, he didn't appear to age much, and without the need for a beard to hide his face, he might even look younger than his son in the future, which would be quite awkward. Unfortunately, apart from his daughter Li Xiao'er, none of his family had the talent for cultivation. They could only strengthen their bodies at best, and would soon lose interest in cultivation as they couldn't break through the initial barriers. Watching his son and grandson grow day by day, Zheng Fan felt that his mission in this life was finally fulfilled. He began to gradually withdraw from the court, giving Li Kuei more space to operate independently while he focused on his cultivation, as that was the true purpose of the game. Days turned into weeks, and years passed. After more than a decade, the major policies he had set in place were implemented, yielding mixed results, but largely within expectations. He didn't wait until he was 50 to retire. He handed the throne to his crown prince 5 years early. His predecessor, Li Yan, had not lived past 60 and had passed away a few years prior. When he stopped being fixated on breaking through his cultivation level, he unexpectedly entered a new realm with ease, without any extraordinary signs or significant changes in his physical sensations. Zheng Fan suddenly understood many things, feeling that his mind was filled with inexplicable insights that were hard to clarify or describe. For instance, He realized that he could wake up from the dream and return to the outside world whenever he wanted. When he looked at a person, images of their past and future would naturally emerge in his mind. The past images were clear, while the future ones were generally elusive. If he wished to delve deeper, he could freeze a particular image and then fast forward or rewind it like watching a video on a computer, or directly jump to a desired scene. Of course, doing so came at a great cost. He would lose this ability for a long time and felt a noticeable decline in his realm. These explorations and the subsequent recovery would consume a lot of his time, prompting him to enter a long period of closed-door cultivation. The newly attained realm was still unstable, and he couldn't easily control his energy. Anyone or anything could involuntarily draw a significant amount of his focus. Closed-door cultivation allowed him to eliminate external distractions, enabling him to concentrate fully on solidifying his realm. Unlike the previous life where he was muddled, the current seclusion is an inevitable process of cultivation. He can feel the new realm gradually solidifying, and he is getting closer to the ultimate goal. Since that is the case, he is not in a hurry to wake up from this dream. After enduring for decades, he doesn't mind a little more time. The outside world is full of distractions, and he doesn't know when there will be another chance as good as this. Zhang Fan feels that this is increasingly less like a game and more like a complete cultivation process, not the kind of deification or immortality seen in superstitions, but more like a hacker breaking into a super complex network, uncovering many unknown secrets. Just as a Chang's birth began with curiosity, the ancient sages must have also started their cultivation with a strong sense of curiosity. The place of seclusion is located in the Chengxiang Hall, north of the Taihe Pool, behind the Taiji Palace. To prevent disturbances, a three-zhang area around it has been designated as a forbidden zone. Even the emperor is not allowed to enter unless he himself goes out. The concept of time becomes very unclear during seclusion, as if it is just a moment. Yet it feels like a long time has passed. He feels that he is almost at the perfect state, and suddenly, Zhang Fan opens his eyes. Not knowing how long this seclusion lasted, the area around his meditation mat is as clean as new, while 3 feet away, dust has accumulated to a thickness of 2 fingers, forming a neat circular space as if cut out with a knife. With a thought, all the doors and windows of the hall slowly open, and Zhang Fan steps out without touching the dust. Not far to the east along the northern side of the Taihe Pool is the Guanyun Hall, his residence before seclusion, where Lu Yun lives. Looking at the moonlight, it should be midnight. The Guanyun Hall is still brightly lit. Zhang Fan strolls over and encounters a group of palace ladies in elegant attire, led by a woman in plain clothing who appears to be in her 30s. Upon seeing Zhang Fan, she immediately bows and, overwhelmed with joy, exclaims, "My lord, you have finally emerged from seclusion. Mother is on the verge of passing. She just wants to see you one last time." The visitor is none other than his daughter in the game, Li Xiu'er, who was still a toddler learning to walk when he first entered the game. And now she has grown so much. Zhang Fan thinks of his real daughter, Zheng Yu. The two daughters looked quite alike when they were young. A Cheng mentioned that Zheng Yu might have dreamt her way into the game, but he has never figured out whether their resemblance is a coincidence or if there is a connection. 2 rows of palace maids hold lanterns to light the way as Zhang Fan and his daughter walk side by side toward the Guanyun Hall. "Xiu'er, what year is it now?" Zhang Fan looks at the surroundings, which seems somewhat unfamiliar. The willow trees that were once as thick as a bowl have now grown to nearly 2 feet. Time seems to have passed a bit too quickly. My lord has been in seclusion for 30 years, and my daughter is already 62 this year. It feels as if the moment he closed his eyes and then opened them, 30 years have gone by. This time of seclusion is even more outrageous than before. Chapter 223. Farewell. On the bed in Guanyun Hall lies an elderly woman with white hair, who is his wife, Lu Yun. Lu Yun, like Zhang Fan's character Li Yu in the game, is now 80 years old. However, looking at Zhang Fan, who still appears youthful, it would not be inappropriate to say she is a grandmother and he is her grandson. In the room, there is a middle-aged man in his 40s wearing a dragon robe. He is their eldest grandson and the current emperor, looking even older than Zhang Fan. If it weren't for the memories of childhood, he would have called someone to capture this intruder who trespassed into the palace. The room's arrangement was almost identical to his memories before his retreat, showing no signs of change. Ignoring the others in the room, he sat by the bed and took Lu Yun's hand. The once delicate hand had now become thin and dry, with a hint of coldness, lacking the warmth of a living person. As if sensing his arrival, Lu Yun struggled to open her eyes, and a faint light sparkled in her dim gaze. A weak voice emerged. "In this life, I am fortunate to accompany you, and at the end, to have you by my side. I have no regrets. I do not seek to meet you again in the next life. Only wish for you to achieve your aspirations soon." After finishing her words, she slowly closed her eyes, a calm smile on her face, while cries of sorrow from daughters and grandchildren filled the hall. The emperor suspended court for 7 days, moving the spirit to the Tai Chi Palace, where a grand funeral was held for the Empress Dowager. Watching his wife pass away before him, even if it was just a game or a dream within a dream, he felt an immense sadness. At that moment, he felt that his cultivation had finally reached completion, and that final moment could come at any time. Every day he rested in the hall of cloud watching, spending nights on the bed where his wife had passed, rising in the morning to practice martial arts by Tay Lake, then sitting all day on a large stone under the willows by the lake. He watched the sun rise and set, the clouds roll and drift. His eldest son, Li Kuei, had also passed away 2 years ago, while his younger son and daughter had families of their own, living in their own residences outside the palace. The vast Tai Chi palace now housed only the current emperor, who was his eldest grandson, and the emperor already had a grandson, truly achieving a 6th-generation family living together. However, for these direct descendants, he did not feel the familiar bond of blood. Instead, there was a sense of estrangement, as if they were strangers to each other. Emotions, after all, come from interactions. Apart from blood ties, he felt little difference between them and strangers, and he preferred solitude. He had informed the emperor of his desire for peace and requested not to be disturbed unless necessary, not needing food or service. This might also relate to his level of cultivation. Since his wife's departure, he had no more attachments in this world. His mind was clear and unburdened. In his current state, he truly felt no hunger, thirst, drowsiness, or fatigue. The temperature had little effect on him. It was as if he was immune to the seasons. Lying on the stone by the lake, he felt as though he had become part of the stone itself. Though he was clearly there, those nearby often failed to notice him, as if he did not exist. Given this, he became too lazy to move, often lying there for an entire day and night. Only when he felt the need to be active would he rise to practice martial arts by the lake. One night, as he lay on the boulder watching the stars, he wondered if the Mars probe had reached Mars and how the mining was going there. Suddenly, a little girl's voice rang in his ear. "Are you my daddy?" Zhang Fan turned around and saw a little girl, about 7 or 8 years old, standing behind him. She was dressed in plain white clothes, with long black hair cascading down, looking like she had just woken up and run out of the house. In this era, the term father didn't exist. People usually referred to their male parents as father, adult, or grandfather. Could she be a daughter who had entered a game from her dreams? "Are you my daddy?" The little girl asked him again, staring intently. In the distance, voices could be heard along the lakeside, with some people coming closer, holding lanterns and torches. As they approached, their voices suddenly dropped, leaving only the sound of hurried footsteps. "Miss, what is your name?" Zhang Fan responded, feeling quite strange. Had his daughter grown up this much? He suddenly hesitated to think further. "My name is Zheng Yu as in Moon. You still haven't answered my question?" The little girl persisted. The group finally reached them, led by a woman in her 20s, who appeared to be her nurse based on her attire. She rushed over, panting, and cautiously asked, "Little princess, have you woken up?" The little girl ignored them, keeping her gaze fixed on Zhang Fan, waiting for an answer. "In another world, I have a daughter named Zheng Yu as well." Zhang Fan, unable to meet the fierce look in the girl's eyes, answered while staring at the distant palace rooftops. "Why don't you go back? Do you know what kind of life mom is living? Is this world really worth your attachment? Why is your heart so cruel? You are so selfish." The little girl's words pierced his heart like daggers. The people nearby were shocked to hear the little princess speak this way to someone said to be destined for immortality, and they quickly knelt, hoping not to provoke her wrath. "Why, young princess? This is the esteemed one. Even the emperor must show respect," a nearby lady-in-waiting advised. "Understood. Return to the palace." The little girl turned and walked away. The lady-in-waiting respectfully bowed her head and explained, "The young princess has recently been suffering from sleepwalking. She often wakes up at night and wanders around, saying strange things. We hope the esteemed one will forgive us. Take good care of her and make sure she doesn't get lost again." Zhang Fan waved his hand to dismiss them. His daughter had grown up so much? Wasn't it all just a dream? How could he play again after this? Zhang Fan's heart was in turmoil, and he could no longer maintain his carefree mindset. Returning to the Guanyin Hall, he lay down on that familiar bed, still pondering how long he had been sleeping outside. The little girl looked about 7 or 8 years old, and her speech was clear and logical. She could be 9 or 10. After sleeping for so long, would her body be damaged? Would he be able to return? What if he couldn't go back? What would he do? No matter what, he had to wake up this time. Had to go back. His daughter had once been the closest to him, and now, with her acting like he was an enemy, how could that be acceptable? Having slept for so long, Li Hong must have been having a hard time, so it was no wonder his daughter was so angry. After thinking about it for an unknown amount of time, he finally fell asleep again. When he opened his eyes once more, it was still the familiar bed curtains. He was still in a dream. What was going on? He wanted to go out, but found he couldn't. The sky outside was already bright. As the emperor and empress waited in the main hall with the little girl from yesterday, they immediately knelt down to apologize upon seeing him come out. "You may rise. I said I wouldn't blame her, Sleepwalking is not something one can control. You should take good care of your daughter and let the imperial physician treat her properly. She will be fine as she grows older. Zhang Fan patiently comforted them. The little girl's hair was neatly styled into a bun, and she was dressed properly, but her demeanor had become cautious, lacking the sharpness from the previous day. She still appeared somewhat sleep-deprived. After sending off the family of 3 along with a large group of attendants, the area near Guanyun Hall returned to tranquility. Zhang Fan worked hard to regain the mindset he had a few days ago. It seemed that without breaking through that barrier, he would never return to his former self. Chapter 226. Investigation. Didn't you hear him? There are few people here, and with your personality, you will definitely find it hard to adjust if you stay too long. Li Hong lay on the other side of the bed, unable to resist teasing Su Lu. Hank, check how many people live here. Su Lu asked the robotic assistant. The permanent population of Yuhuang City is 387, 266 males and 121 females, with an average age of 53 years. The oldest is 78, and the youngest is 31. Hank replied word by word. So few? There are more people in our community, and they are all elderly. Su Lu complained. My job this time is to investigate the living environment here and see if it is suitable for large-scale immigration to submit a report to the board. Li Hong said, rubbing her head with both hands. Of course, it's suitable. In a radius of 300 kilometers, there's no area in Yanjing that is this large. Plus, the temperature and air quality here are so pleasant. I heard it's like this all year round. What a great place. If the population exceeds 10,000, I would be willing to live here permanently. Su Lu expressed her views. What you're talking about are just the basic conditions. If 10,000 people live here, what will they eat and drink? Can this place be self-sufficient? If it relies entirely on supplies from Earth, that is unrealistic. If there is an interruption for any special reason, those people would starve. Li Hong clearly considered more issues. You're right. On the way here, I didn't even see a tree. Can plants grow without sunlight? If that is the case, there can't be any livestock, and they would only be able to eat synthetic food, which would be too miserable. Haha, it's not as serious as you think. There are plants here, and they can raise chickens, ducks, geese, horses, cattle, and sheep. But hearing about it is one thing, seeing it in person is another. We need to investigate how large-scale and sustainable it can be. Li Hong comforted her with a smile. As they talked, both of them grew sleepy and fell asleep in bed. The rotation period of Venus is 243 days, equivalent to 224 days on Earth, which is longer than its revolution around the Sun. Moreover, the temperature difference between the side facing the Sun and the side in shadow can be extreme, dropping to over 100 degrees below zero. Therefore, timekeeping here mimics that of Earth. Both the calendar and time are based on Yanjing time. The next day, Yulei arrived on time to take them for a visit to the municipal hall, which resembled a large auditorium and served as their office and meeting place. In the center of the hall was a three-dimensional model of the entire planet, occupying several dozen cubic meters, featuring high-precision data that could map terrain down to the centimeter level, along with dynamic cloud data information. We have deployed over 3 million floating beacons across various cloud layers globally, and there are more than 7 million fixed beacons on the planet's surface to collect real-time information and facilitate data transmission. This three-dimensional model allows us to understand this planet more accurately and timely than we do Earth, Yulei proudly introduced. Isn't the environment harsh down there? How are these beacons deployed? Su Lu asked curiously. Hehe. We also have mines and bases down there. The environment is indeed harsh. More difficult for survival than on the Moon or Mars, but that doesn't mean we can't go down. The materials available in the clouds are limited, and a large amount of resources still needs to be obtained from below. Yulei found her question somewhat amusing. After leaving the municipal hall, they traveled for over half an hour in a flying vehicle to the city's outskirts, where there were vast grasslands. In the distance, there seemed to be mountain ranges that looked like clouds, with the white ground covered in various shades of green, white, and yellow plants blooming in a riot of colors. While herds of cattle and sheep grazed freely, Yuhuang City was not stationary in the clouds. It was constantly moving slowly to ensure the city remained in the sunlight. There were no seasons, no diseases or plagues, and the grass and livestock grew rapidly in a purely green and pollution-free environment. They had already exported tens of thousands of tons of high-quality beef and lamb to Earth, receiving very positive feedback. Yulei began his introduction. How large is the grassland? And is there a limit to the number of cattle and sheep that can be raised? Li Hong inquired. The shade-tolerant grasses were cultivated in less than a year. We are gradually expanding the number of livestock. Currently, there are 200,000 cattle and over 3 million sheep. The ground material is synthesized day and night by countless nanorobots, which can automatically absorb nutrients from the atmosphere below. Some scarce nutrients can be directed from the city center. The area of the grassland is expanding daily, and our goal is to fill the entire convective layer on the sunlit side of the planet's equator. At the current rate, it will take at least another 100 years. By then, the number of livestock will far exceed that on Earth. Yulei said with ambition. What progress has been made in farming? When it came to agricultural planting, Yulei looked a bit awkward. We have resolved part of the vegetable issue, but progress on staple crops is not ideal, with low yields and no large-scale planting yet. However, with our current usable area, we have no pressure in providing food for 100,000 people. The energy and land costs are almost zero. It's just that their isn't such a high demand, which is why we haven't expanded. Does mayor mean that the population capacity of Yuhuang City is 100,000? Li Hong confirmed. That can be understood that way. Through our research, we found that 100,000 is the minimum number for the population to reproduce normally here without over-consuming the local resources. You are considering the long-term future seriously. Are you planning to establish an independent nation here? Su Lu asked curiously. Haha, as the mayor of the city, I must think about its long-term development. A city without people is just a dead city. As for independence, when and whether to become independent depends on the board's decision. Yulei laughed heartily. He was not shy about such topics, especially since there were only the three of them present, and the robot was very discreet, with no records of leaks. Li Hong shot Su Lu a glance and slowly said, Zhang Fan's wish is for all of humanity to unite and develop together, rather than create new divisions. This is also the main principle for selecting board members. I will submit the mayor's opinion to the board. This city can at least serve as a backup option for humanity, and I will support your suggestion. Mayor Yu, can you sell me one of those courtyard houses? Su Lu asked. Haha, not at the moment. If the board approves our immigration application, then it will be possible. At that time, you can buy a piece of land and design the style yourself. We will help you build it. That sounds even better. I'll reserve one in advance. So don't forget me when the time comes. Su Lu said excitedly. They then inspected several ranches and other livestock breeding bases, as well as some experimental fields for vegetables and staple crops. After a day of visits, they returned to the courtyard house. One downside here is that the internet and communication are too slow. When will your quantum communication be widely available? Su Lu asked. Right now? Being able to communicate is already a huge breakthrough, but there are many technical limitations that make large-scale implementation difficult. As they were discussing communication, Hanbai reminded Li, Zheng Yu requests to speak with you. Chapter 224 New World. Since the 1960s, humanity has launched over 40 probes to Venus. Most of these probes were sent during the Cold War by two superpowers, but unfortunately, the success rate was not very high, with only about 20 successfully entering Venus's orbit. Why was there such enthusiasm for exploring Venus back then? Venus is the closest planet to Earth in the solar system. The two are almost the same size and have nearly identical masses, both composed of similar materials, a central iron core and rock. However, unfortunately, the similarities end there. Unlike Earth, the surface temperature of Venus reaches over 400 degrees, with a very dense atmosphere containing more than 90% carbon dioxide, along with a sulfuric acid cloud layer that is over 20 kilometers thick. Even worse, the atmospheric pressure on the surface of Venus is over 90 times that of Earth, making it impossible for even the most advanced nuclear submarines to withstand the immense pressure. Venus's rotation is too slow, and without a protective magnetic field, solar winds and cosmic rays can freely assault the planet's surface, which would be catastrophic for humanity. After obtaining this information about Venus, humanity's enthusiasm for it diminished significantly. The former Soviet Union began to focus on building space stations, while another nation directed its efforts towards manned lunar landings. In recent years, humanity's enthusiasm for Mars, Earth's neighboring planet on the other side, has surged. At least the environment on Mars is much gentler than that of Venus, and its area is significantly larger than that of the Moon. Humans have managed to land on the Moon, and theoretically, traveling to Mars is also possible. As for Venus, it remains too lofty for humans to match in their current conditions. However, all of this underwent a fantastical change after the launch of the Reptilian spacecraft by the Interstellar Travel Agency. In just under a decade, not only are there daily flights to the Moon, but healthy adults can also experience an affordable 3-day trip to the Moon. The once unreachable Venus and Mars can now be visited in person, and it is said that routes to the even more distant Jupiter and Saturn are also in development. However, the distances to these planets are still too great, making ticket prices unaffordable for ordinary people. Only a few publicly funded scientists and wealthy individuals can make the journey. There is only one flight to Venus each month, and the round trip consumes half of the travel time, with a ticket price of 10 million yuan, requiring a 6-month advance reservation. As a major shareholder of the Interstellar Travel Agency, Li Hong does not need to make a reservation. She can also stay in exclusive suites that are not available for public sale, but she still has to pay for her ticket. Her good friend Su Lu also benefits from staying in the spacious suite, along with their robotic assistants, Han Bai and Su Lele. Although their tickets still cost half of what a human would pay, the two of them spending a month vacationing on Venus incurs a ticket cost of 30 million yuan. which is unattainable for ordinary people. However, for Sulu, it is merely a day's profit for her company, a drop in the bucket. Li Hong personally owns 35% of the Interstellar Travel Agency, and with Chen Fei's 20%, she has achieved control of the company. She does not participate in the day-to-day management, and her post-tax dividends amount to several billion each year. She also holds 20% of Sulu's Qianzhong Bailing Pharmaceutical and 5% of Brainwave Medical. While these shares prevent her from becoming the richest person, she ranks among the top in the realm of female billionaires. None of the three companies have sought financing or have plans to go public for now, so her wealth remains unknown to the public. She also maintains a low profile, rarely seen wearing jewelry or luxury goods. Her personal spending each year may not even match that of an average white-collar worker in the city, while Sulu's annual expenses are several multiples of hers. Li Hong, how do you maintain yourself? You're a mother of two, yet your figure is even better than mine. It's just not fair, Sulu said enviously, looking at her friend's physique. They were resting in the living room of the luxury suite aboard the Venus I spacecraft, which had just departed Earth and was en route to Venus. This so-called living room was completely different from those on Earth. There were no coffee tables or televisions, and all 6 walls were empty. The walls were made of a soft material resembling sofas, allowing them to float around the room. Just watch what you eat and exercise more. It's really that simple. Oh, it's easy to say, but hard to do. What has the deal with you and Zhao Debao? He seems quite honest and has been there for you all these years. Don't you think he is good enough? Li Hong asked curiously. Zhao Debao was a fan of Sulu during her earlier live broadcasts, having gifted her over 100,000 in presents over the years. Later, when he heard she was starting a pharmaceutical company, he quit his job to help her. Sulu's current wealth is partly due to his contributions. Li Hong always thought they would get married, but after all these years, they still live their own lives, as if their relationship is purely platonic. In this day and age, why must they get married? It's just fine as it is. I feel relaxed, and he is free. You see, he is a good guy, but there are plenty of other good women out there for him. Sulu said nonchalantly. Are you not planning to have kids either? You're not getting any younger. In a few years, it might be difficult if you want one. Li Hong remarked. I don't want kids. My family doesn't expect me to carry on the lineage. Besides money, I don't know what I could leave for a child. I feel unworthy of being a mother, so I won't be selfish. Sulu had come to terms with this over the years. You say that as if it's so easy. Not everyone knows how to be a mom right away. It's something you learn over time. Li Hong disagreed with her friend's perspective. Oh, come on. You make it sound so easy. Just because you have kids doesn't mean you're a great mom. Those 2 kids of yours are practically raised by Wu Qi, aren't they? What have you done? Sulu scoffed. Li Hong opened her mouth, but didn't retort. Her friend was right. After her daughter Zheng Yu was born, she hardly had to worry about anything. The toughest times were managed by Zheng Fan, and at least she breastfed for 3 months. Her son Zhenghua was bottle-fed from the start, and she went back to work right after her confinement, with Wu Qi stepping up to help raise the children. Both robots, Yuan and Han Bai, didn't have as many friends. Both kids preferred being with Wu Qi. The journey to Venus takes a week, and it isn't boring on the way. Communication with Earth is inconvenient, making it hard to watch live streams, but watching videos, dramas, and reading various books is still fine, without the worry of being disturbed. By the time they finished a few shows or books, they would have arrived at Venus. There are fewer passengers on the Venus 1 compared to the lunar spacecraft. Including publicly funded scientists, each trip is limited to 1,000 people. After all, not many can afford 10 million. The quality of service must be assured. This spacecraft looks almost identical to the lunar 1, with only minor internal differences. To distinguish it, the exterior has different pattern markings, featuring a scenic view of Venus along with the Arabic numerals 0 and 1. Although it was initially designated as Lunar 7, it was renamed Venus 1 due to the change in its flight route. 50 of these spacecraft have been constructed for the lunar base, 30 for the Martian base, and 10 for the Mercurial base. These spacecraft are mainly focused on established lunar and Martian routes, while Mercury is currently used for mining. Venus is still in the early development stage, and the tourism route has just opened, still in the exploratory phase. Li Hong's trip is a mix of business and pleasure. When they finished watching their 3rd show, Venus 1 finally reached its destination, entering a low Earth orbit at an altitude of 500 kilometers around Venus. Chapter 225. Jade Emperor City. The spacecraft's anti-gravity system primarily relies on the interaction with the planetary magnetic field for takeoff and landing. Venus is the only planet among the 8 major planets that lacks an internal magnetic field. Therefore, their spacecraft can only transport them to low Earth orbit. They need to transfer to a spaceplane to reach their travel destination, Jade Emperor City. The name comes from the celestial realm where the Jade Emperor resides, reminiscent of a city built in the sky like a palace. The harsh environment on the surface of Venus is not suitable for human survival, and even robots like Nuwa cannot exist there for long. Ordinary nanobots cannot survive either. After careful examination, Nuwa discovered a suitable area at the top of Venus's atmospheric convection layer, over 50 kilometers above the ground, where the temperature remains around 20 degrees Celsius year-round. And the atmospheric pressure is similar to that at Earth's surface, with comparable oxygen levels. This data aligns with what previous human probes had obtained. If a city were built here, as long as they could shield against cosmic rays penetrating the planet's magnetic layer and the occasional sulfuric acid mist carried by air currents, the living conditions would be better than in many places on Earth. In the past, relying on human technological power, they could only lament the situation. However, after years of technological breakthroughs at the Reptilian Laboratory, improvements were made to the nanobots, and many new materials were developed specifically for this purpose, turning everything into reality. The shape of the spaceplane reminded Li Hong of the global journey she experienced with Zheng Fan in the game chamber. It resembled a transformed, oversized boomerang, with a wider and thicker central curve. This aircraft can carry 150 people at once. The spacecraft is equipped with 10 planes, capable of transporting all the passengers in one go. The planes carried the passengers away from Venus 1, the folded wings gradually unfolding as they flew into the atmosphere of Venus. 2 hours later, an ethereal cloud paradise appeared before them, with white clouds rolling below and palatial buildings in traditional Chinese style faintly visible. The spaceplane descended, parting the steaming clouds to reveal a vast square of tens of thousands of square meters, with the ground resembling white marble. The spaceplane did not glide to a landing, but instead slowed down to 0 speed while gently touching down on the surface. At the airport, there were dedicated robot attendants to welcome this batch of travelers. Due to her special identity, Li Hong was greeted by the city lord of Jade Emperor City, referred to as the mayor, the head of Reptilian Technology Company here, Yu Lei, a handsome middle-aged man in his 50s with graying hair. He studied economics in his early years, later went abroad for further studies in a well-known institution, earning a master's degree in business administration from a prestigious university. He had worked in several Fortune 500 companies, earning over $10 million annually. However, after facing several promotion failures due to the unwritten glass ceiling in foreign enterprises, he resigned in frustration and began to travel the world, visiting over 100 countries and regions in a decade, and self-studying multiple languages, truly a well-rounded individual. He was also involved in the selection of board members for the Crawling Foundation back then and made it to the final 50 candidates. However, for the sake of balance, he was not chosen by Chuan Fan, which led to his participation in forming the Strategic Committee, specifically responsible for the development and transformation of Venus. It can be said that Yu Lei played an indispensable role in the planning and design of this city, leading to its current scale. Mayor Yu, I really appreciate you coming to greet me in person. This is my good friend, Su Lu, the chairwoman of Qianzhong Bailing Pharmaceutical. And this is our assistant, Han Bai. Su Lele. Li Hong stepped forward to shake hands, and then introduced the people behind her. Haha, it's my duty. Without Ms. Li's strong support, I wouldn't be able to hold this mayoral position. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you can remove your spacesuit masks. The environment here is very safe and comfortable. Yu Lei's voice was deep and magnetic, and with his demeanor and looks, Su Lu found herself slightly smitten. This place really feels like a palace in the sky. Is it safe without protective measures? I heard before coming here that the environment is quite terrifying. Su Lu's voice unconsciously had a higher pitch. The terrifying place is the planet's surface 50,000 meters below our feet, with an average temperature close to 500 degrees and over 90 atmospheric pressures. The Venus 1 spacecraft you arrived in can land, but coming back up is challenging. Here, we have multiple protective measures, so our personal safety is absolutely guaranteed. Yu Lei explained with a smile. Their transportation resembled an oval duck egg with 2 wings mounted on the upper sides, featuring a particularly cartoonish design and a pale duck egg color. When parked, the wings were raised high. As they approached, the car door slid open from the center to the sides, revealing 3 rows of 6 independent seats inside. Yu Lei invited Li Hong and Su Lu to sit in the 2 middle seats, while their assistants took the back row, and he sat in the front passenger seat. The doors closed automatically, and the vehicle slowly ascended as the wings lowered, gradually flying forward. Is this vehicle also using a gravity-repelling system? Didn't they say this planet has no magnetic field? Li Hong asked curiously. The magnetic field comes from the ground we are standing on, which is also the foundation of our Jade Emperor City. We generate electricity using the high temperatures in the atmosphere below, and nanobots continuously decompose carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, utilizing the carbon elements to synthesize this ultra-light yet sturdy ground material. The average thickness of the ground has now exceeded 3,000 meters, and the high-density lower atmosphere provides immense buoyancy for our Jade Emperor City, allowing it to float stably here even without propulsion. As the flying vehicle accelerated, it sped toward the front. The vehicle was surrounded by a circle of transparent glass, allowing them to see buildings resembling white marble materials flashing by on both sides. with various colorful eaves made of the same crystalline material. This city is so large, much bigger than those few cities on the moon. How much longer until we arrive? Sulu asked, tapping the back of the front seat. We don't need to worry about temperature regulation or oxygen supply. The hardened ground currently spans a radius of 300 kilometers, all within our city limits. We are heading to the central area of the city, and we'll be there shortly. They had already seen a large-scale complex, with buildings resembling traditional courtyard houses. Aside from the building materials being different from Earth, each structure was spaced over 100 meters apart. The flying vehicles they were in could easily accommodate dozens of them in front of the entrance. One of the vehicles landed in front of a courtyard, and Yulei turned around to say, Ms. Li, this courtyard is specially reserved for you and the chairman. After several hours of travel, you should settle in and rest. I'll come back tomorrow at 9 in the morning to take you on a tour. Thank you for your hard work, Mayor. He chuckled. Working in this city is quite easy, without any deceit or intrigue. Watching the city expand and improve day by day brings an unparalleled sense of accomplishment. The only downside is that there are a few people, but over time, you will come to like it here. Oh, and your assistants can connect to the city's data system. They can answer any questions you have. Yulei got out of the vehicle, waved goodbye, and gradually walked away, disappearing into the mist. The two friends stepped out of the car, and their assistants, Han Bai and Su Lele, helped them with their luggage as they walked into the courtyard. The rooms in the courtyard were connected by corridors, with dozens of rooms in a three-part layout. The exterior had an antique charm, while the interiors were surprisingly modern, featuring bedrooms, bathrooms, a living room, a gym, a media room, a library, and all kinds of modern facilities, including a spacious hot spring swimming pool with steaming water, which left the two women in awe. Oh my! This place is worlds apart from the moon. It truly feels like entering a celestial palace. Aside from not seeing the sun, everything else is perfect, Sulu exclaimed, lying on the soft bed, completely relaxed. Chapter 227. Communication. Before the establishment of the Reptilian Foundation, Zhang Fan transferred the land, buildings, and auto repair shop to Li Hong's name. Later, the auto repair shop was shut down and demolished, becoming part of the villa courtyard. The Reptilian Laboratory also evolved into a completely independent company, transitioning from being subordinate to a cooperative relationship with the Reptilian Technology Company. While the research in the laboratory continued to be led by Wu Qi and Yu Hua. In the communication room of the three-story villa on the north side of the Reptilian building, Xingyu, a fourth-grade student, was waiting to talk to her mother. Beside her was her younger brother Xinghua, a third grader, and a robot named Wu Qi, who was responsible for taking care of them. 9-year-old Zheng Yu was nearly 1.4 meters tall, while her younger brother, who was a year and a half younger, stood only at 1.2 meters. In terms of height, weight, and fighting ability, he was completely overshadowed by her, having lived in her shadow since childhood. The three-dimensional communication connected, and Li Hong's poised figure appeared before the siblings, who immediately sat up straight. Have you finished your homework? Why are you so eager to reach out to me? It's Sunday. We finished our homework the day before yesterday. Mom, can we change the topic? Xingyu replied, frustrated, as the calls always revolved around homework, as if her mother was overly concerned about their studies, when in reality, she didn't even know their ranking in class. You contacted me and wanted to change the topic? I'm your mother. Shouldn't I be concerned about your studies? This daughter had been arguing with her since she learned to speak. She didn't know who she took after. I saw my dad in my dream yesterday. Xingyu didn't want to argue with her mom any longer and got straight to the point. You dream about him all the time. What's so strange about it? Did you contact me just for this? Li Hong thought her daughter was overreacting again. This time it's real. Dad started to breathe. Aunt Wu said he might be waking up, Xingyu continued. That night, she dreamed again, this time of living in a huge palace. She secretly ran out and saw her dad lying on a rock by a big lake, sleeping in the middle of the night. Xingyu was deeply impressed by this dream. Really? How many similar dreams have you had? Which one was reliable? Li Hong questioned, casting a doubtful glance at Wu Qi behind them. Wu Qi confirmed Xingyu's statement, saying that Zhang Fan's vital signs had indeed awakened from a hibernation state, and his brain waves were now normal, indicating he should be waking up soon. Sister, did you really see Dad alive? Xinghua asked curiously. Silly. Dad has always been alive. He was just hibernating. Xingyu retorted. The teacher said only cold-blooded animals hibernate. Humans aren't cold-blooded. Bears aren't cold-blooded, nor are hedgehogs. Yet they hibernate. Why can't humans? Xinghua wanted to argue back, but felt his sister was being unreasonable and couldn't find a good counter-argument. All right, you two stop arguing. What did you and Dad talk about? Li Hong interrupted their bickering. I asked him if he was my dad, and he asked my name. I told him I'm Xingyu, the moon's you. Then he said he has a daughter in another world named Xingyu too. I questioned him. Why don't you come back? Do you know what Mom has been through? Is this world really worth your nostalgia? Why is your heart so cruel? You're so selfish. She saw him look quite ashamed, so she ran off, and then woke up. Zheng Yu recounted the scene in her dream excitedly. Where? Don't blame your dad. His brain is quite special. He might just think he is dreaming, and didn't he realize how fast time passes outside? Li Hong believed it was better to let an expert explain, thinking Wu Qi's words were more convincing than hers as a mother. Zheng Fan didn't he spend much time in the dream. What took a long time was the hibernation state. His breathing, heartbeat, and brainwaves became extremely slow, but just enough to maintain bodily functions. In this state, his brain's biological clock nearly stopped. We suspect his thoughts entered a higher dimension and have now returned. Once his thoughts adapt to this world, he will wake up. Wu Qi and Yuhua had clearly studied Zheng Fan's brain and bodily conditions extensively over the years. The two siblings only partially understood Wu Qi's words, but they grasped the key point. Dad would wake up soon. The father they remembered from their childhood, who had always been asleep, was about to wake up. Would he be strict like mom, managing them firmly? Would he be busy like her, always having endless work? Unlike the unease of the two younger children, Li Hong felt extremely excited. After waiting for 9 years, he was finally going to wake up. This guy is likely doing it on purpose. Otherwise, why would he fall into a deep sleep right after the Foundation just held its first board meeting? It's obvious that this was premeditated. But then again, he doesn't need to hide anything from himself. His brain is different from ordinary people. Perhaps Su Kan and the other speculations have some merit. He might have a vague premonition about certain events. He knows how to do many things, but is unclear about the reasons behind them. Zheng Fan seems like an unaware time traveler, manipulated by some invisible force. Otherwise, it's hard to explain why an ordinary person, who lived a mundane life for over 30 years, suddenly undergoes such a drastic change with so many incomprehensible inventions. The artificial intelligence code remains a mystery that even numerous experts and professors cannot fully understand. In similar conditions, their generated AI can accomplish many tasks and is far more efficient than humans, but compared to a Cheng, it appears almost disabled. Li Hong cannot fully agree with Su Kan and Lu Yifun's theory. A person's habits are cultivated slowly from childhood and cannot change drastically all of a sudden. She is also familiar with Zhao Gang and Wang Xiaoyu, who all say that Zheng Fan's personality and temperament have not changed much. He is very disciplined. It's quite rare to maintain past habits and temperament after suddenly becoming wealthy, which doesn't resemble the behavior of a time traveler. Su Kan speculates that Zheng Fan has precognitive abilities, and Li Hong feels there is some truth to it. They have spent a long time together, experiencing many things firsthand. Zheng Fan, who never bought lottery tickets, won a grand prize after buying one, and during their honeymoon trip in the rainy season, they encountered sunny weather in many places, witnessing the most beautiful sceneries. The photos they took still make her cousin, a travel blogger, envious. What is making you so happy? Did your daughter win another award? Su Lu asked as she saw Li Hong walking into the room with a beaming face. Yu Er said she dreamed of her father yesterday. And Wu Qi also mentioned that Zheng Fan is about to wake up. Really? Then congratulations. You won't have to keep living like a widow anymore. Su Lu joked. Stop ignoring me. You're just talking nonsense. I'm speaking the truth. You've been married to Zheng Fan for 10 years. And for 8.5 of those years, he has been like a living corpse. Isn't that living like a widow? Is that nonsense? It's a fact. Whether Zheng Fan is about to wake up or has already woken up, they cannot rush back immediately. The planned inspection work must continue. That is just Li Hong's character. Chapter 228. Awakening Zheng Fan's situation in the game isn't as optimistic as Wu Qi described. It took him more than a month to calm his mind, eagerly awaiting the last moment, which is referred to as the Thunder Tribulation. Yet, 2 months passed in the blink of an eye, and it still hadn't come. Zheng Fan knew he was still missing something. Until one day, he saw that little girl again by the Tay pool, and he finally understood that this might be the new bond. Father said you are his grandfather. Why do you look younger than him? The little girl came running alone, and Zheng Fan realized this was her true self. Because I have achieved success in my cultivation. Didn't your father teach you? Is it just daily meditation? But I always fall asleep. The little girl replied honestly. Cultivation requires talent, perseverance, and insight. Without talent, it's difficult to even get started. Without perseverance, one may only reach the entry level. Without insight, breakthroughs become challenging. Unfortunately, these 3 aspects are not closely related to one's identity or lineage. Among the descendants here, only my daughter has managed to get a foothold. And judging by the current situation, she is merely at the entry level, making it hard to advance further. Let me teach you a set of boxing techniques. Once you learn it, practice it every morning after you wake up to help alleviate your sleepwalking symptoms. I feel I should do something for her. So I decided to teach her Tai Chi. The little girl was physically weak, but very smart. After demonstrating the simplified 24-form Tai Chi twice, she was able to memorize the basic moves. Watching her practice, I corrected her actions one by one and had her memorize some key phrases. By the end of the second round, she was already looking quite proficient. For a while after that, the little girl came every morning to practice Tai Chi. and I guided her on her posture and movements. Over the course of more than a month, her body gradually became stronger, and her complexion was no longer as pale as before. Master, what is the name of this boxing technique? Can I teach it to my mother? She also has trouble sleeping. One day, after finishing practice, the little girl asked. The technique is called Tai Chi. You can teach it to anyone. But remember to be thorough. If you pass it on, you must teach it completely, or it will be of no use. I understand. If I have any questions, I'll come back to ask you. The little girl happily replied. I fell silent, gazing into the distance as the sky darkened. What was meant to come was finally approaching. That night, amidst the howling wind and pouring rain, thunder roared incessantly throughout the city, and the torrential downpour lasted the entire night. Many elderly people had never heard such prolonged thunder or seen such heavy rain. The next day, after the rain, the skies cleared, and the Tay pool swelled, submerging the stone where I often sat. The little girl went to the lakeside and found no one around. The doors and windows of the Guanyin Palace were wide open, showing no signs of the storm, and after searching inside, she found no trace of anyone. After more than 10 years of operation, the Tsuxian game finally underwent a significant upgrade. Upon logging in, the interface now included options for different dynasties, unlocking everything from the Western Han to the Song, Yuan, Ming, and Qing dynasties, allowing new or reborn players to choose freely. I finally emerged from the deep dream of the game. Opening my eyes, I found myself in the familiar room, beneath the familiar ceiling light, but now I wore a special hat that covered my head. Several patches were attached to my chest, connected by wires that converged into a cable leading to a device beside the bed. As I sat up, I saw the concerned gaze of my robotic assistant. Yuan, Zhang Fan, you're finally awake. How long have I been asleep? 8 years and 4.5 months. It is now July 3rd, 2029. You've changed a lot. It seems that Nuwa and the others have achieved quite a bit in their research over the years. Zhang Fan first noticed the eyes of the robotic assistant. Before he went to sleep, the visual effect of their skin was indistinguishable from that of real humans. But upon closer inspection, their expressions and eyes still revealed some flaws. Now, looking at the round expressions and gaze, they appeared very natural. Biotechnology, genetics, bionics, and paleontology have been the focus of Nuwa's research in recent years. Many research have already been applied, and our bodies have developed to the 5th generation. Our population has expanded to 320 million, with 5 robotic production factories on Earth, 1 on the Moon, and 1 on Mars, with a total annual production capacity of 70 million units. Yuan immediately began to talk about the changes over the years. This is good news. Now tell me the bad news. 90% of the robots are located domestically as well as in our bases on the Moon and Mars. Many countries have enacted legislation to prohibit our robots from entering their borders, completely banning the use of our autonomous driving and artificial intelligence. And the number of such countries has increased to over 30, with a trend of further expansion. Are they only banning ours? Or are they banning all robots and artificial intelligence applications? Do we have competitors? Zhang Fan asked curiously. Yes. Several companies from a certain country have jointly developed a super-intelligent system and created intelligent robots with highly similar structures to ours, overlapping significantly with our business. We do not see them as competitors, but they view us as enemies. They frequently launch public opinion attacks against us, slandering us, and putting us in a passive position. How is the Reptilian Foundation developing? How is the construction of our lunar cities? How many people are there? Zhang Fan changed the topic. The 4 lunar cities have a total population of over 900,000, with 500,000 being researchers and their families. And the rest are staff operating the cities and leisure tourists. The resource consumption of the lunar population can achieve 60 self-sufficiency. We have more than 2 million robots. 1.5 million are various service robots, and 500,000 are researchers and workers from the Reptilian Laboratory and factories. All of these fall under the jurisdiction of our Reptilian Foundation. When Zhang Fan woke up, it was morning, and both children had gone to school. While Wu Qi had also gone to the laboratory. He had been learning about the outside world from Yuan, and in between, he went to the kitchen to cook a bowl of noodles, having his first meal in years. It tasted good, and his stomach felt fine. His arms and legs were functioning normally, showing no signs of muscle atrophy. It really felt like he had only slept for a few days. Not at all like someone who had been bedridden for over 8 years. While slurping the noodles, he listened to Yuan continue discussing some important events, some of which he had anticipated, while others were unexpected. Yuan's 5-year term had ended, and she had stepped down as the president of the Robot Self-Regulation Committee. Now, she was just Zhang Fan's assistant and caregiver, responsible for only him. She had hardly left the villa for over 8 years, rarely even stepping out of this room. Of course, she felt there was no need to mention these things. In her mind, this was just the way things were. In the afternoon, Zhang Fan suggested going to the yard to practice and see if his skills had declined after lying down for 8 years. However, He found that he was no longer a match for Yuan Yuan. Her strength seemed even weaker than before, but her reaction speed and predictive ability had improved significantly. Is this the power of the fifth-generation body? I feel like I have no chance of winning. I feel like I've become useless. After being knocked down for the 5th time, Zhang Fan lay on the yellow earth in the yard and lamented. Don't be discouraged. Even in a world of robots, I am still at the top. Your strength hasn't declined. I feel you have made great progress. Yuan Yuan surprisingly comforted him, which was something that would have been unthinkable in the past. Now, it came so naturally. How much difference is there between them and humans? Chapter 229. Son and daughter. Zhang Fan did not announce his awakening. He still adhered to the principle of keeping a low profile and tried to make his presence as inconspicuous as possible. Xing Yu and her brother Zhang Ho returned home after school and were startled to see their father standing in front of them. Despite having been mentally prepared, they felt a moment of fear and lost the courage to question him loudly as they did in their dreams. Haha, I've been sleeping all these years, and I owe you both an apology. If you have any wishes, just say them, and I will try my best to fulfill them. Zhang Fan stepped forward, opened his arms to embrace them, and suppressed his excitement as he spoke. Dad, is it really you that I saw in my dream? Xing Yu asked, looking up. It can be said that it is, and it can also be said that it isn't. That was another world, another identity. I also want to thank you for waking me up. Zhang Fan couldn't help but stroke his daughter's head, surprised that after waking up, she had grown up. Missing out on her growth added to his regrets. Dad, can we go to the moon? I've wanted to go for a long time. But Mom, won't he allow it? Xinghua asked excitedly. When your mom comes back, we'll persuade her together. Zhang Fan's response disappointed his son a bit. He had hoped his father would confidently agree immediately, but it seemed they still had to go through their mother. Seeing his son's expression, Zhang Fan smiled. Your mom must have her reasons for not allowing it. What are her reasons? Mom said we are too young, and that she will take us when we get into middle school. Has any child your age been there? Yes. Many kids in my class have been, and they say it's a lot of fun. The gravity up there is low, so everyone can easily fly around. There's a park themed around parkour under Chaoga City, and they have professional filming. The videos look so exciting. I've wanted to go for a long time. I can't imagine how exhilarating it would be. Zhanghua clearly had been looking forward to this for a long time. You only know how to play, and you can't even make it into the top 10 in your grade, yet you still have the nerve to ask for things. Zheng Yu scorned her brother. I've won several championships in the sports meet. You've never won anything. The brother retorted defiantly. That's because I didn't want to win. Did you see me sign up? I'm low-key, unlike some little kids who love to show off. Zheng Yu said proudly. Zhenghua found it hard to argue back. In their sibling rivalry, he had never won, whether it was in academic performance, strength, or fighting skills. Do you have any homework to do? What do you want for dinner? Dad will go make it for you. Zhang Fan interrupted as he watched his children bickering. I want to eat beef from a famous restaurant. I heard it's really delicious. Zhenghua immediately expressed his desire. Zhang Fan turned to his assistant, who replied, we can order it, and it will be delivered within half an hour. What about you, Yue? What do you want to eat? As long as it's made by Dad. I'm fine with anything. Please don't let me down. Zheng Yu clearly emphasized the importance of it being homemade. All right then, I'll make my specialty, meat patties. The kids, not having any homework since the end of term exams were approaching, gathered in the kitchen to watch his cooking. It's worth noting that their mother hadn't cooked in a long time either. This wasn't just the case in their home. Ever since robots became widely used, many chefs and restaurants had been replaced by them. Watching Zhang Fan skillfully knead the dough, and after letting it rest, chop scallions and mincemeat, the children were fascinated. The knife moved swiftly, making only a slight sound as several scallions were chopped into tiny pieces. Although there was a meat grinder that could do the job, he chose to chop the meat by hand to show off his skills, which piqued his son's curiosity. Dad, why is it so quiet when you chop the meat? Hee, that's skill. If you control your wrist, you can cut the meat without making noise. Why don't you give it a try? Zhenghua, being smaller and weaker, stood on a little stool. At first, he managed to chop a few times, but within a minute, his hands were sore. When he applied more force, it made noise. When he used less, he couldn't cut through. Zheng Yu was slightly stronger than her brother, but could only keep it up for about 3 minutes before slowing down. And soon she found it too tiring. Then Zhang Fan took over, and after 10 minutes of chopping, a whole piece of beef was transformed into minced meat, leaving the siblings in awe of the effort involved. Making meat patties begins with the filling, and I'll teach you how to do it so you can learn to make it yourself. The food you make will taste even better. Dad, why is homemade food tastier? Zhenghua asked curiously. You've won a championship in sports, right? How would you feel if you were just given the title without competing? That would be ridiculous. I don't want a championship like that. It's the same principle. Only through hard work can you experience the joy of achievement. If you get something without effort, not only will others look down on you, but you won't feel satisfied inside. Zhang Fan, taking on the role of a teacher, hoped his son would understand. Dad, do we have to cook for ourselves from now on? Unfortunately, Zheng Hua didn't grasp his father's good intentions and began to worry about the future. While Zheng Yu smiled to herself. For you, studying is the priority, so you don't have to cook every day. However, I hope you learn to cook. It's a basic survival skill. At least you should know how to make some simple dishes. Seeing that his son didn't seem to get it, Zheng Fan helplessly changed the subject, directly teaching them what seasonings to add to the meat filling, how much of each, and finally adding chopped scallions and a bit of hot oil to mix it all together, completing the filling. The kitchen is spacious and well-equipped, with a large electric griddle. Zheng Fan directly made a meat pie that was 60 centimeters in diameter. When the fresh meat pie came out, the aroma was irresistible. Zheng Fan cut it into pieces and put them on a plate. Zheng Hua couldn't wait to grab a piece and exclaimed while eating, "Wow, this is delicious. The meat pie is so fragrant. It's both aromatic and crispy." His daughter ate more quietly, looking quite satisfied as well. Zheng Fan also made a light seaweed and egg flour soup, easily winning over both children with the meal. After a short break, Zheng Fan took the kids to the activity room and played table tennis for 2 hours, defeating them with ease. In just a few hours, he had cheered up his son and daughter, breaking down the initial barriers. They even started to complain together about how their mother, Li Hong, was such a workaholic, always asking if they had done their homework instead of spending time playing with them. In the evening, Li Hong initiated a video call and was overwhelmed with joy upon seeing Zheng Fan alive and well on the other side. Zheng Yu and Zheng Hua were shocked to see their usually strong mother in tears, realizing that even she had a vulnerable side. As Li Hong gradually regained her composure, Zheng Fan quickly changed the subject, asking, "How much longer will your survey on Venus take? When will you be back? It's only been 3 days, and there are still more than 10 days to go. The journey back will take over a week, at least until the 23rd, to reach Earth." Li Hong quickly calmed down when work was mentioned. "Let's take the kids to the moon together when you get back," Zheng Fan suggested. "All right, you two. Finish your summer homework before I return. If you don't complete it, you can't go," Li Hong said to Zheng Fan with a friendly tone. But when she turned to the children, her expression changed. "Oh, got it." Zheng Yu couldn't help but roll her eyes, finding it too hypocritical. "Mom, I promise to finish. You have to take me." Zheng Hua chimed in, being cute and playful. "And don't let your grades drop in the final exams. If you do, you won't be going, especially you, Zheng Hua." I'm going to study right now." The little boy was intimidated by his mother's conditions and hurried back to his room to study. "I'm also going to study hard." Zheng Yu noticed her mother's gaze on her and wisely left the room. "You've worked hard all these years. You've taught the kids very well," Zheng Fan said appreciatively. "Su Lu was right. I haven't contributed much. You should thank Wu Qi. She basically raised the kids. I'm not a competent mother. Actions speak louder than words. You've set a good example for them. Even if you don't spend much time with them, they clearly respect you. That's probably because they're afraid of me. Now it's fine. I can be the bad cop, and you can be the good one. You've won them over in just 1 day. Make sure to stay safe over there. The survey is just for show. Don't take it too seriously. With today's surveillance methods being so strict, they can't fake anything." "Got it. I know what I'm doing. As for my awakening, let's not publicize it yet. If anyone asks, I won't hide it, but we'll just say I've just woken up and am in recovery." "Why is that? I haven't been here for such a long time, and you all have done great. I don't want to disrupt your rhythm. Just stick to the previous plan." Zheng Fan didn't intend to be annoying by pointing fingers right after waking up, nor did he think he was superior to these people. After finishing the call with Li Hong, Zheng Fan entered the study he hadn't been in for over 8 years. His computer must be outdated by now. The room still looked the same, with the computer screen set up just as before, and a few books were still on display, the desk spotless. The computer booted up and ran normally, and the desktop was still the familiar one, making Zheng Fan question whether he had really slept for over 8 years. Wu Qi had helped upgrade it at the beginning of the year, upgrading both hardware and software to the latest versions. And all of his previous content had been transferred over. All the original settings were retained. Yuan's answer cleared his doubts. Has Wu Qi turned into a workaholic again? He hadn't seen her since waking up. Zheng Fan asked. "They are studying the body and brainwave monitoring data from your sleep period, which might have important findings. In the past, she only went to the lab while the kids were at school." Zheng Fan began to continue the research on quantum computing he had started before falling asleep, first wanting to understand the progress made over the years. Unfortunately, the advancements were still limited, and there had been no groundbreaking developments. The Nuwa quantum chip had also gone through 2 iterations, and its application range had expanded somewhat. The long-awaited universal computer still hadn't appeared, remaining limited to specific fields, with most applications still focused on controlling nanobots for mining, construction, new material production, and using the Baling capsules for medical treatment. The Baling capsules had also undergone several upgrades, in addition to the original prescription drugs. There were now a few over-the-counter types that could automatically treat certain diseases, clear the digestive system, blood vessels, and eliminate toxins and stones, functioning similarly to health supplements. But with real efficacy, far more impressive than most health products. The most successful idea was the one proposed by Su Lu, a baleen capsule specifically designed to consume body fat, equivalent to a special weight loss drug. Once launched, it was immediately met with frenzied popularity, requiring no exercise or dieting. Just one a day led to a loss of 1 pound until a healthy body shape was restored. This single type of capsule contributed to half of their company's net profit, with daily sales exceeding 100 million capsules, earning it the title of the ender of obesity. Besides these, the primary field of the quantum chip was secure remote communication, but unfortunately, the issue of generalizing the quantum chip's analysis had not been resolved. And this communication mode still couldn't be widely adopted, remaining in a laboratory application state. It seemed that despite sleeping for over 8 years, his knowledge hadn't fallen too far behind and could still be of use, which made Zhang Fan secretly pleased. It was getting late, so Zhang Fan shut down the computer and went to check on the 2 children, who had already turned off the lights and were resting, maintaining a regular schedule. He returned to his own room to sleep. The next morning, after getting up early to exercise in the yard, Zhang Fan practiced Tai Chi and then looked for someone to spar with. Yuan Yuan took the initiative to ask to be his training partner, but was decisively rejected by Zhang Fan. He finally understood how Yuan Yuan felt when she used to be his practice partner. After all, who would want to play with someone if they only lost and never won? He chose to spar with less experienced robots, and sure enough, Zhang Fan regained his confidence. He wasn't selfish either. After winning once, he would switch partners, as there were plenty of robots in the building. And letting them out to stretch their legs wasn't a bad idea. At 7 o'clock, Zheng Yu and Zheng Hua got up on time and found that their dad had prepared breakfast himself, the same dishes as usual, but somehow they seemed even tastier. With self-driving vehicles to take them around, parents like Zhang Fan had it much easier. The couple of cars parked in their garage were all high-end models produced by a certain automobile factory. Their designs weren't much different from most mainstream self-driving cars, featuring smooth, symmetrical bodies, zero-gravity seats, and panoramic display screens. What set them apart was the special materials used in the body, sourced from a lunar factory, providing exceptional safety, scratch resistance, and crash protection. Since the widespread adoption of self-driving technology, traffic accidents had become rare, making passive safety measures less critical. However, wealthy individuals always valued their lives more. And once the new cars were launched, they quickly entered a state of high demand. With a price tag of 1 million, over 500,000 units were sold in a year, which was a testament to the number of wealthy people around. After sending the kids to school, Zhang Fan continued his work from the previous day. Decades had passed in the game, giving him more time to contemplate issues, and he had developed some ideas that he was ready to put into practice. Time flew by when he focused on work, and lunch was brought to him by Yuan Yuan, who had prepared it. It wasn't until the kids returned from school that Zhang Fan stretched lazily and stepped out of his study. "Dad, we start our exams tomorrow. After the exams, we get summer vacation." Zheng Hua reported the good news loudly. "Son, aim for a good score, so you can enjoy your summer vacation worry-free." "I will definitely do well." "Hee hee, my sister has 2 more subjects than me." Zheng Hua gleefully replied. "I've already finished studying. You will learn those next semester. So you'll have to take the exam sooner or later." Zheng Yu dismissed her brother. "What do you want to eat today?" "Dad will treat you in advance to celebrate your upcoming exams." "Meat pies." Zheng Hua answered first. "Eating the same thing every day gets boring. Let's change it up. How about fried sauce noodles?" Zheng Yu suggested. "I want to eat noodles with tomato and egg sauce." Zheng Hua protested. "Then let's make it together. It won't be too much trouble, and once you learn, you can make it anytime." Zhang Fan said as he took the 2 kids to the kitchen for a live cooking lesson. He taught them how to knead and roll the dough, allowing them to try it out themselves. Then he took out the large rolling pin he had used to make meat pies yesterday and showed them how to roll the stiff dough into thin sheets, dusting them with flour and stacking them. They cut the dough into fine noodles with a knife. They washed and peeled the potatoes, cut them into shreds, blanched them, blanched the green beans and cut them into sections, blanched the bean sprouts, sliced the cucumbers, prepared diced meat for the sauce, and made the tomato and egg sauce before boiling the noodles. The 3 of them played and joked around for over an hour before finally finishing the noodles. "Dad, you're right. It's really delicious when I make it myself." Zheng Hua exclaimed. "I feel like I can eat 3 bowls of noodles today." "Your eyes are bigger than your stomach. If you eat too much, you'll be complaining about feeling unwell." Zheng Yu shot a glare at her brother. "I'm just saying I feel like I can eat that much, not that I will for sure. You always criticize me. All right, let's eat quietly without arguing." Zhang Fan quickly intervened to stop the quarrel. In the end, Zheng Hua didn't finish 2 bowls, and Zheng Yu only managed 1. Together, they ate less than Zhang Fan did alone. "Dad, are we still going to play table tennis later?" Zheng Hua asked eagerly as he set down his bowl and chopsticks. "First, let's take a break. You shouldn't do intense exercise right after a meal. Why don't you tell me about school?" Listening to them talk about school also helped Zhang Fan deepen his understanding of social changes, as the 2 excitedly shared fun stories from their school life. The next day, After the kids went to school, Zhang Fan continued to gather information online, as others' accounts were often not comprehensive enough. Nowadays, most teachers and staff in elementary schools are robots, with only a few core positions held by humans, who must also be equipped with robotic assistants for both aid and supervision. This configuration is common in government, banks, and other enterprises, where less than 1% of staff are human, while 99% are robots, fully replacing human roles in service positions. As robots and artificial intelligence become widespread, many low-end jobs have been replaced, with humans essentially withdrawing from industries like manufacturing, logistics, construction, food delivery, sanitation, and more. The employment rate has drastically decreased, yet overall productivity has increased, and societal wealth continues to grow through sophisticated data models constructed by numerous professionals. The policies set by the government have achieved truly universal free healthcare and free education from birth through college, along with comprehensive minimum living guarantees. Although these inclusive policies may seem costly, the meticulous management of superintelligent systems has significantly reduced actual expenditures, eliminating astronomical levels of corruption and waste. The wages of many replaced robots have been offset by funds reallocated by the government, and most physical consumption can be balanced through tax incentives. Fiscal deficits have even begun to disappear, resulting in substantial government surpluses. The number of government officials is now less than 1% of what it used to be. Yet administrative efficiency has greatly improved. Officials no longer have the opportunity for corruption, and ordinary citizens no longer have to rely on others. They don't need to worry about survival even if they don't work, nor about health issues without support, or being unable to afford to raise children or have no one to rely on in old age. As robots began to enter the healthcare and education sectors on a large scale, treatment standards and teaching quality across regions have become more uniform. Populations in smaller cities with better environments have started to return, while the populations of once crowded first-tier cities have begun to decrease, making them less congested. Housing prices have returned to normal levels over the years, transforming homes into ordinary commodities rather than investment tools for value retention and appreciation. People's lives are now free from worries, and enthusiasm for consumption is rising. The number of travelers is gradually increasing, leading to the emergence of a new group of travelers. These individuals no longer settle in one place for a long time, nor do they visit popular attractions just to check off a list. Instead, they choose to stay in unfamiliar places and genuinely immerse themselves in the lives and customs of the locals. They may linger longer if they enjoy the experience, or move on if they do not. Their destinations can range from bustling metropolises to remote small towns, or even secluded villages in the mountains, as long as there is something unique about the place to draw them in. Our world is vast. Yet most people spend the majority of their lives within a radius of just 30 to 50 kilometers. Now, free from occupational constraints and survival pressures, everyone can choose where they want to live. With comprehensive data management powered by advanced intelligence, attentive service from robots, and nationwide support reaching every individual, people can enjoy life without having to consider others' opinions. Regardless of their background, wealth, or education, everyone can live with dignity, no longer burdened by daily struggles just to survive. Although disparities in wealth, knowledge, health, and personal qualities still exist, we can now say that we live in one of the most equal societies in history. Such a society has been partially realized in certain small Nordic countries, where extensive social welfare spending is based on the exploitation of less developed countries, making it unsustainable in the long run. In contrast, the current social situation in another nation is built on meticulous management by advanced intelligence and the diligent efforts of countless robots, differing only in the targets of exploitation. However, this near-ideal social condition does not come without concerns, particularly regarding fertility. Despite efforts to address the declining birth rates caused by past issues such as childcare, healthcare, education, and elder care, the overall fertility rate continues to decline, and the expected rebound in birth numbers has not materialized. The younger generation, particularly those born after 2000, generally prefers to live their own lives, showing low willingness to marry and even less to have children. In the domestic discourse, two viewpoints have emerged. One perspective believes that the overall population numbers are influenced by nature's invisible forces, and any human intervention will ultimately be counterproductive, advocating for a natural approach. The other viewpoint expresses an inexplicable worry that population figures will continue to decline, leading to the eventual disappearance of the nation. The first viewpoint resonates strongly with many, as billions of people consume vast amounts of resources daily, and these populations are products of specific policies. The majority of the world's over 8 billion people are shaped by unique circumstances. In areas with scarce resources and poor living conditions, populations tend to grow. This is a biological instinct for the continuation of the human race. With reduced survival pressures, a decline in fertility rates is a normal phenomenon. Eventually, when the population reaches a certain low point, it will naturally begin to increase again. The second viewpoint is seen as unfounded alarmism. After waking up for a few days, Zhang Fan had not stepped out of his house, except for a little progress in realizing the universalization of quantum chips. He spent his time browsing various social changes and understanding the situation both domestically and internationally. The dominance of a certain country has faded, and the political party that had been humorously referred to as the Lottery Party gradually replaced the original leading party in Congress, becoming the largest faction. The focus of national policy has completely shifted from external to internal matters, and the hotspots of conflict around the world have suddenly quieted down, leading to a rare few years of brief peace. Last year, the candidate from the other party narrowly defeated Tom's successor, regaining leadership, and national policies began to fluctuate again. Some regions that had cooled down for a few years started to heat up, and relations with a certain country also began to experience ups and downs. The confidence of this country lies in its own superintelligence system, which is used for scientific research and the management of complex social systems, perfectly replacing another system. Although there is still some gap in general artificial intelligence, it has already achieved autonomous driving and can replace most of the artificial intelligence technologies related to brainwave technology that are still controlled by another country. Their intelligent robots are capable of replacing most low-end labor, and some countries' armed forces have begun to use robotic soldiers. Thanks to years of accumulated reputation and international relations, this country's technology has rapidly gained popularity, especially within its traditional sphere of influence, where it has subtly gained a dominant advantage. Many countries are gradually enacting legislation to strip away brainwave technology from the market, and new confrontations are quietly forming. Chapter 232. Summer homework. The children's exams are over, and summer vacation has begun, freeing them from daily school attendance. To reduce the learning pressure on children, schools no longer allow ranking and publicizing of grades. But parents still need to know their children's academic performance to target their efforts, especially since graduating to middle school still depends on exam results. The habits formed from years of exam-oriented education cannot be easily erased. Fortunately, both children are quite bright, and with Wu Qi's supervision and guidance, their grades have consistently been at the top, showing improvement in this exam as well. Zhang Fan himself was a poor student, which prevented him from entering high school, so he felt he had no right to demand much from his children. Regardless of their performance, he did not plan to criticize them. With the majority of people unemployed nationwide, the children do not face employment pressure, as long as they maintain their moral integrity. Their success depends on their own choices and efforts. Their summer homework was different from what Zhang Fan had imagined. In addition to workbooks, there were also projects like extended reading, physical exercise, and social practice. They were all eager to go to the moon, knowing they couldn't give their mother an excuse to refuse, as they had learned from past experiences that failing to meet her expectations would leave no room for leniency. The siblings spent 3 days completing their workbooks and for extended reading. They each had their own accounts and small funds to buy books online and read at their own pace. For physical exercise, Zhang Fan taught them the martial arts he had learned over the years, planning to teach them a set each year, enough for them to practice until they reach college. Every morning at 6, Zhang Fan would lead them in practice. At first, they all looked reluctant, waking up even earlier than before during the summer break. However, after a few days, they developed a habit and would automatically wake up at the right time in the morning, consciously heading to the yard to exercise. "Dad, can I invite 2 classmates over to play?" Zheng Yu asked after their practice that day. "Sure, but I won't be responsible for hosting. You need to plan everything yourself. When they come, how to entertain them, what to eat and do, all arranged. Don't invite them over just to stare at each other in silence. That would be awkward." Zhang Fan replied in his usual straightforward manner. "Okay, as long as you agree." Zheng Yu smiled, feeling happy since it was rare for her to make a request, and her dad didn't oppose it. "I want to invite classmates over too." Zheng Hua chimed in. "I brought it up first, don't mess it up." Zheng Yu snapped. "Dad, I also want to invite classmates over." Zheng Hua said. "All right, but your sister gets to invite first. You can learn from her and see what needs to be done. Make your own plan, and after your sister is done with her guests, you can invite yours. There is plenty of time during the break. No need to rush in just a couple of days." "Oh, fine then." After breakfast, Zheng Yu excitedly called to invite her classmates, while Zheng Hua, feeling gloomy, went back to his room to read. Zhang Fan returned to his study to continue with his work. In the early days of quantum computing, there were many technical routes like superconducting qubits, photonic qubits, ion traps, ultra-cold atoms, polarized molecules, and topological qubits. With the substantial financial backing of major companies, claims of achieving quantum supremacy were made, demonstrating superiority over traditional supercomputers for certain specific computational problems. However, most of these were still hype. The leap from 0 to 1 was certainly significant, but there was still a vast distance to practical application. And it was not surprising that there were no breakthroughs in the following decades, until the emergence of Nuwa. Supported by Wu Qi and the massive computational power of a Chang'e superintelligence, they created a quantum synthesis box that resembled a magical tool, capable of separating and reorganizing vast amounts of metal ions, laying an important foundation for the production of new practical quantum chips. Later, with Zheng Fan's full support, Nuwa was sent to geosynchronous orbit, beginning her extraordinary journey. Truly practical quantum chips and nanorobots were successively developed, and the combination of these two technologies produced unexpectedly powerful effects. Countless new materials were quickly introduced, lunar mining became a reality, and fusion reactors, anti-gravity devices, and the Lunar 1 spacecraft were manufactured one after another. Even a byproduct like the Songbird capsule changed the way humans approach medicine. Aside from cancer, dozens of previously incurable diseases were conquered, significantly increasing human life expectancy. These were just specialized applications of quantum chips. If universal programming interfaces could be created, or if general complex computations could be performed like traditional chips, a Chang's computational power would achieve exponential leaps, and intelligent robots like Nuwa could truly become godlike entities. It was as if they had mastered a powerful magical artifact, but had yet to find the right way to use it, merely relying on a golden bowl to beg for food. Of course, the ability to attract resources for this golden opportunity is quite formidable. Over the past 8 years, with the joint efforts of the board and the strategic committee, the foundation has developed into the largest consortium in the world. Whether in terms of wealth, technology, or military capability, it has surpassed any single nation on Earth. They directly control a population of less than 10 million across a few cities on the Moon and Mars. But these individuals are carefully selected from billions on Earth, sharing a common ideology. They firmly believe that their group is destined to lead humanity's future. Zheng Fan, the nominal chairman, has made his greatest contribution by donating funds and then sleeping, while Li Hong has taken over his responsibilities. Li Hong mainly organizes and presides over meetings, voting on proposals according to Zheng Fan's wishes, without proposing or participating in specific executions. She does not impose her views, earning the respect of everyone. Nuwa and Wu Qi are robots and do not serve as directors of the foundation. Yet their actual status is higher than any director due to their contributions and exceptional research capabilities. Any director can be replaced, but their positions are irreplaceable, and their authority and resources surpass anyone else's. This was one of the purposes of Zheng Fan establishing the foundation. Only through continuous technological development can the internal conflicts of humanity be resolved. Currently, the biggest obstacle is the generalization of quantum chips. Before his slumber, Zheng Fan was not in a hurry. But now he realizes this is the most powerful weapon for resolving conflicts. Finding solutions while continuously advancing is far less costly than resorting to war. As Sun Tzu's Art of War teaches us, the best strategy is to win without fighting. Lost in work, time passes quickly. And Yuan reminds Zheng Fan that it's time to prepare dinner. Zheng Yu's classmates have already gone home and are reading in the living room, while Zheng Hua is examining some wooden pieces, trying to figure out how to assemble them. Dinner time is coming up. What do you want to eat? Dad, can you assemble a Luban lock? It seems so difficult. I've been working on it for almost an hour and still can't get it. Zheng Hua asks, holding up the wooden pieces. No asking for help. That would be cheating. Zheng Yu quickly interjects to stop Zheng Fan from responding. Then take your time to figure it out. The answers you discover on your own will leave a deeper impression. Zheng Fan encourages his son. What do you want to eat, Yue? Let's make dumplings. I want to learn how to make dumplings. Zheng Yu thinks for a moment and says, sure. I want to learn how to make dumplings too. Zheng Hua exclaims, throwing the Luban lock on the ground. All right, after dinner, you can continue your research. Zheng Fan pats his son's head. In the north, eating dumplings is almost a tradition during any festival, holding a king-like status in the menu that no other food can shake. Their frequency on the dining table may not surpass that of buns or noodles, yet it highlights the unique status of dumplings, neither a daily staple nor dispensable. The two children have had dumplings many times, but this is their first time making them themselves. Zheng Fan decides not to do everything for them, but rather guides them to do it themselves, helping them engage in practical social experiences. The whole process is a bit cumbersome, but not too complicated. The main tasks involve kneading the dough, making the filling, rolling out the wrappers, and wrapping the dumplings, which takes quite a bit of effort. Zheng Fan and Yuan helped with the wrapping, and the meal didn't take much time. Eating the dumplings they made themselves indeed tasted better. The two kids took a lot of photos with their phones and shared them in the class group. After the meal, they returned to the living room. Zheng Hua continued to study the Luban lock, while Zheng Yu kept reading. Zheng Fan sat for a while, and seeing that no one was paying attention to him, he prepared to return to the study to continue his earlier work. Dad, can you take us to live in another place? Zheng Yu suddenly asked. Why? Zheng Fan asked curiously. We have lived here since we were little. Mom is busy with work and has only taken us out to play a few times, each time for a short while. Can we live somewhere else for a while? I want to experience a different life. The daughter, though young, had many ideas and expressed them quite well. This sounds great. Let us go to the countryside and find a watermelon field so we can pick and eat watermelons every day. Xinghua immediately agreed loudly, putting aside the Luban lock to join in their discussion. You only think about eating. You get stuffed after finishing one watermelon. What else can you do? Zheng Yu teased her brother. I can help sell the watermelons. Yuan suggested, looking into nearby watermelon picking farms to see if they could go for an experience. Let us buy an RV and go out to play. After experiencing the watermelon field, we can go to other places. Your mom will be back in more than 10 days. We can take the RV to Lopner to wait for her. What do you think? Zhang Fan's proposal was welcomed by the children as expected. Robots have already made their presence felt in almost every industry across society, collecting information more accurately and quickly than the internet. The countryside is no exception. In just a few minutes, Yuan managed to contact several picking farms that were ready to welcome them. Hiring a few robots can manage hundreds or thousands of acres of land. However, some traditional farmers prefer to tend to their few acres, growing food for their own consumption. The costs of seeds and fertilizers are often higher than buying directly. Yet they still enjoy this way of life, though such farmers are becoming increasingly rare. In the southern part of the capital, there is a famous watermelon region, Pangaswang town in Daxing, renowned for its watermelons. However, they were not heading to Pangaswang, but to a rural area in Gubei, Hebei, several dozen miles away. This area has several times the planting area for watermelons compared to Pangaswang this year. It is the season for ripe watermelons, and many parents are bringing their children to experience rural life during the summer vacation. Their RVs are not conspicuous among the many others on the road. With fully automatic driving, the driver's cabin has been removed, making the space more spacious. The kids' novelty of getting into the car had not yet worn off when they arrived at their destination. The vehicle drove directly to the edge of the field, where they could see thousands of acres of connected watermelon fields. By July, the greenhouse watermelons had already been sold, and this open field was planted with round, striped Chilean watermelons, known for their high yield, juicy sweetness, and being the cheapest time of the year. This period is the season when watermelons are in large supply. These watermelons are juicy and have thin skins, making them particularly prone to cracking. Careful handling is essential during picking and transportation, and when they ripen, they must be harvested and shipped out quickly. If a heavy rainstorm or hail hits, the sight of cracked watermelons scattered everywhere is truly heartbreaking, and the massive investments and months of hard work could be lost. The ground in the watermelon field is wet and slippery, with vines sprawling everywhere. Dozens of men and women are busy picking and transporting watermelons, while some children run around carrying watermelons outside. At the edge of the field, several trucks are parked, weighing and loading the watermelons. Nearby, robots are responsible for weighing and calculating, and the person welcoming them is the owner of the watermelon field. A young man in his 30s with dark skin and a closely cropped hairstyle. Boss, your truck looks good. Are you also bringing the kids to experience life? They grew up in the city, so I brought them here to see something different. Hope I'm not causing you trouble. You're here to help me, and I'm grateful. Right now, my biggest headache is the more than 200 acres of watermelons, each acre producing over 10,000 pounds. We can either carry them out by hand or use shoulder pulls. Feel free to eat as many watermelons as you want in the field, but please don't waste them. After a full day's work, for you four, including this young lady who is a robot, I'll give you 500 pounds of watermelons. The owner said generously. Not only do they get to eat for free, but they also get to take some home. The two children are amazed, and one of them, Zheng Hua, eagerly says, Dad, let us get to work. Young man, the ground is slippery, so be careful not to fall. It's best to go barefoot. I want to compensate for ruined shoes. The owner chuckled as he patted Zheng Hua's head. After a few trips in the field, a pair of expensive shoes could easily get ruined, and the watermelons he offered wouldn't even cover that. Of course, Zhang Fan doesn't care about a few pairs of shoes. Getting a cut on his foot would be worse. Shoes can be replaced, but feet cannot. At the edge of the field, there are large baskets for loading watermelons and shoulder pulls. They can carry one basket together, or one person can carry a basket on their back, or use a shoulder pull to carry two baskets. The unique shape of the watermelons makes transportation challenging. Even with the robot strength, they can carry at most 200 or 300 pounds at a time, which is comparable to an adult's efficiency. The only advantage of the robots in the watermelon field is their endurance. They are more capable than humans. Zheng Fan and Yuan are using shoulder pulls to carry two baskets out, while the two kids team up to lift one basket. Initially, they are excited and energetic, but soon they can't keep smiling. A row of watermelon vines stretches over 100 meters long, and the mud sticks to their feet as they walk. At first, carrying the baskets just a few meters from the roadside feels easy, but as they move further away, their arms and legs begin to feel sore, and the experience becomes unpleasant. Let us take a break with your sister, but don't think about slacking off. Look over there at those kids who are about your age. They've been working since we arrived without a break. Zhang Fan points to a few kids in the distance to motivate them. They can do it, so can we. We won't rest either. Zheng Hua, with his childlike temperament, can't stand being challenged, while Zheng Yu remains silent, clearly starting to compete quietly. The potential of individuals is immense. At first, after just half an hour of work, they felt utterly exhausted. However, after gritting their teeth and pushing through, they managed to work for 1 hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours, until it was time for lunch. The two children could no longer manage their clothes and simply lay down on the grass by the roadside, feeling completely drained. The boss of the watermelon field had ordered 2 portions of boxed lunches for each person, as they were engaged in heavy labor and needed substantial meals. He praised them, saying, "I didn't expect you to have such strength, boss son. Many of us from rural areas don't have your determination." The 2 kids performed well too. The boss gave a thumbs up to the 2 children lying on the ground, who felt a bit embarrassed by the praise and suppressed their earlier urge to run away. Chapter 234. Change. Everyone sat down at the edge of the field to rest and eat their boxed lunches. Zhang Fan and the others felt too shy to retreat to the RV, so they joined others under the shade of a tree to eat. Watermelons were scattered all over the ground, some weighing 4 to 5 kilograms, and the larger ones over 10 kilograms. Even someone with a big appetite could only eat so much before feeling full. Among the dozens of pickers, most were relatives and friends of the watermelon field boss. But there were also a few families like Zhang Fan's, who brought their children to experience farm life. After a morning of hard work, everyone felt less inclined to chat. "Comrades, you've all worked hard. We've picked 10 acres this morning. Let us aim to finish another 10 acres this afternoon. Each person gets 100 pounds of watermelon, and you can invite relatives or friends to join us. We'll give watermelons in exchange for their labor." The boss shouted to boost morale. "Boss, you're too shrewd. 100 pounds of watermelon isn't worth much, and we're working like dogs for it." Someone teased. "I can't help it. I've gotten sunburned." The boss replied, "Come winter, I'll turn back into a fair-skinned young man. I've invested everything I have into this watermelon field. Whether I profit or lose depends on these few days. If the watermelons don't come in, I'll have to rely on welfare." He expressed gratitude to everyone, old and young, brothers and sisters, and a few younger siblings for their strong support. After enjoying lunch of boxed meals paired with watermelon and resting for over half an hour, everyone resumed work. The overcast morning gave way to clear skies, and the sun began to heat the fields. Yuan went to the vehicle to fetch sun hats for everyone to wear. They worked until past 3 o'clock, and regardless of age, everyone was drenched in sweat. Their clothes were soaked with perspiration, dried by the sun, and then soaked again. Of course, the robots were an exception. There were only a few of them. Everyone rested under the shade of trees or vehicles, leaning or lying down, with their minds too exhausted to think, and lost the desire to speak. The boss of the watermelon field clearly recognized that everyone had lost interest in the watermelons, so he arranged for cold bottled water to be brought, refreshing and quenching their thirst. After a half-hour break, they continued working until nearly 7 o'clock, when the sun was about to set, thus concluding the day's labor. A few families from the city came to experience rural life and loaded the watermelons they received onto their vehicles to return. Zhang Fan and his family also received a large pile of watermelons. Fortunately, their RV had a spacious storage compartment. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to fit everything in. They also had plenty of protective bubble wrap to prevent the watermelons from getting damaged during the ride. Back in the vehicle, Zhang Fan saw his 2 children slumped in their seats, motionless, and he smiled as he praised them. "You did well today. No crying, no running away. You've impressed me. Dad, I feel like my whole body doesn't belong to me anymore, and I've got 2 big blisters on my hands. It hurts when I touch them." Zheng Hua complained with tears in his eyes. "This is what real rural life is like. It's not as beautiful as you imagine. The grains, vegetables, and fruits we eat are hard-earned. From now on, think about this when you eat and don't waste food." Zhang Fan took the opportunity to educate them. "I'll definitely eat my watermelon clean in the future. They're not easy to come by." Zheng Hua truly empathized this time. It seemed that today's experience was quite effective, and Zhang Fan planned to continue the activities tomorrow. "No, we're not doing it anymore." The 2 children shouted in unison. "Haha, it's rare for you 2 to agree on something. All right, we won't go tomorrow." Zhang Fan laughed heartily. After resting for a night at home, the next day, Zhang Fan, along with his children and assistant Yuan, set off on their westward journey in the RV. Before leaving, Zhang Fan let them discuss the route themselves. The northern route would take them along the Jingshin Expressway, mostly traversing the vast grasslands of Inner Mongolia, which could take less than 2 days if they traveled quickly. The southern route would pass through cities like Shijiazhuang, Zhengzhou, Luoyang, Xi'an, Lanzhou, Xining, and Dunhuang, leading to the Lop Nur. The first half of the journey would be densely populated with many cities, which would take more time. After discussing, the siblings reached a consensus to take the southern route, as it would be more lively and fun with more people. The actual distance of the southern route was also over 3,000 kilometers. But if they didn't stop for sightseeing, they could reach their destination in 2 to 3 days. The fully automated vehicle could drive continuously day and night, and it must pass rigorous tests, one of which required it to operate without failure for 72 hours. At an average speed of 50 kilometers per hour, they would certainly arrive, especially since their average speed would likely be higher. Zhengyu, being just a year older than her brother, had significantly more knowledge and a more meticulous mindset. During the journey, she spent time researching several places they planned to visit. In Luoyang, they visited 2 famous museums, briefly saw the Yingtian Gate and Ming Hall, explored the Longmen Grottos, and after enjoying a special Hui Mian dinner that evening, they rested in the vehicle. Arriving the next day in the ancient city of Xi'an, Zhang Fan had been there 10 years ago, which was the first stop of his honeymoon trip with Li Hong. And it was also where he developed that crawling program that led to his later web crawling technology company. Zhang Fan was usually not very talkative, but in front of his children, he indulged in being a tour guide. He had visited many places there and had a deep understanding of the history, having lived through it in games for decades, and he could easily reference various historical anecdotes. Although the children listened with a sense of partial understanding, their gazes at him were filled with admiration, feeling that their dad knew so much. After spending 2 days in Xi'an, we continued our journey without stopping in Xining and drove directly to the shore of Qinghai Lake, the largest lake in the country. The scenery here is simply breathtaking. We parked the vehicle and spent half a day enjoying the beautiful lake views and snow-capped mountains of the plateau, observing the migration of the local fish, and sharing the legends and stories of this place with the children. After a restful night, we hit the road again, and by dawn, we had reached our destination in less than 5 days. In the past, the area around Luobubo was a large expanse of saline and alkaline land that had dried up from a saltwater lake, characterized by deserts and gravel plains, with extreme aridity making it inhospitable for vegetation and wildlife. Dust storms would frequently sweep through, obscuring the sky. However, the current Luobubo is completely transformed compared to those days. It has become the largest aerospace base in the world, with over 120,000 tons of spacecraft launching and landing daily. Due to their similar designs, the spacecraft can only be distinguished by their external coatings and numbers. The most common lunar spacecraft are silver-white, while Martian spacecraft are earth-yellow. The largest area is occupied by the lunar base, followed by the Martian base, both of which have the most developed immigrant city constructions and the highest populations. Each day, a spacecraft transports between the 2 bases, which regularly dock over 10 spacecraft ready for launch. Venus sees 1 to 2 spacecraft visiting monthly, as a separate base has just been established there. Other major planets are still in the exploration and development phase, with only 1 or 2 spacecraft visiting each year, sharing a single base. Within less than a decade, the areas surrounding these bases have developed into a medium-sized city, with a permanent population exceeding 2 million, at least half of whom are foreigners of various skin colors and languages. To improve the environment here, the soil has undergone desalination processes using nanorobots, and a lake spanning several dozen square kilometers has been excavated in the central area. Water sources from the surrounding Darim River and Peacock River have been reintroduced, and a large number of drought-resistant trees have been planted. After years of continuous transformation, first-time visitors can hardly imagine what it looked like before. The Reptilian Foundation has managed to construct several underground cities on both the Moon and Mars, as modifying the environment there is relatively straightforward. There is no need to maintain air and temperature. The focus is solely on soil transformation, which only requires some time from the nanorobots. Collecting massive amounts of saline and alkaline materials has proven to be a significant wealth. Having tasted success, the Reptilian Foundation has begun construction on its second space base in the Sahara Desert, covering an area of over 200,000 square kilometers, many times larger than the current bases. Chapter 235. Ginkgo Trees. Zhang Fan, along with his children, checked into a 5-star hotel near the lunar base, staying in a luxurious suite with 3 rooms. The RV has limited space, and taking a shower here is much more comfortable without the worry of running out of water midway. After spending a night in the vehicle, they were not tired and decided to freshen up and explore the area. All city management and services are handled by robots, with the overall supervisor being Yu Li, who was sent by Zhang Fan years ago. Most of his subordinates from the defunct auto repair shop have also come here. Due to the private nature of the trip, Zhang Fan didn't have Yuan notify Yu Li. However, since hotel check-in required registration, it was impossible to avoid the local authorities. In the hotel lobby, they encountered Yu Li, who was waiting there. Dressed in a sharp suit with a rugged, bearded appearance, he enthusiastically approached them for a handshake and a hug, saying, "Boss, long time no see, we all missed you. Yu Li, your image has changed so much that I barely recognize you. The contrast is quite striking." Zhang Fan laughed. The Yu Li of the past had a naive and honest look, while now he resembled a polished business elite, exuding an aura of authority without needing to raise his voice, accompanied by a few followers. Glad to hear that. I had no choice. The people I deal with are different now. My previous look was a disadvantage. Everyone thought I was easy to fool, so I had to change my appearance. Yuli's demeanor made it hard for most to see him as a robot. He was simply too different. To facilitate their conversation, Yuli invited them to an office on the first floor. The 4 lunar cities and 12 Martian cities managed by the Reptilian Foundation, as well as the only city on Venus, Jade Emperor City, mostly had human supervisors. However, this place was always managed by Yuli, a decision stemming from Zhang Fan's original appointment. More importantly, he had performed exceptionally well, and the Foundation couldn't find a better candidate after much consideration. So they had to let him continue. This base needed to connect with cities in Gansu and Xinjiang, liaise with the station troops, maintain good relations with the surrounding populace, and accommodate an increasing number of tourists from all over the world. Any mismanagement in any of these areas could affect the base's operations. Over the years, Yuli not only avoided major mistakes, but also managed to develop the base to such a large scale that it astonished many human experts, who exclaimed it as a miracle. Thanks to the successful development here, the Foundation was able to take the initiative in negotiations with several countries surrounding the Sahara Desert, acquiring over 200,000 square kilometers of desert land, creating favorable conditions for new base construction. The spaceship Venus 1, carrying the boss lady, is already on its way and will land at Base 3, the westernmost base, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon 3 days from now. I'll notify you in advance. Yuli invited them to sit on the sofa, served tea, and then reported the situation. The Sahara base has started construction. Will you be working there soon? Zhang Fan asked. Yes, this place has already gotten on the right track, and there aren't many challenges left. However, that base is very large, nearly 100 times the size of this one. Just the groundwork and desert hardening will take over a year. For now, I don't need to go there yet. We have this capability, while other countries can only dream of it. It might take them decades to achieve. Yuli said proudly. Is it the Sahara Desert in Africa? Zheng Yu, who had been quietly listening, couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. Yes, little Yu. I used to hold you when you were a child. Do you remember me? I'm Uncle Yuli. He replied with a smile. Zheng Yu was less than a year old back then, so she obviously had no recollection. Uncle, did you really hold me? Zheng Hua, who was swaying back and forth on the sofa, asked. I didn't hold you. I was already working here before you were born. This is our first meeting, young man. I hope you'll take care of me in the future. Yuli greeted Zheng Hua again. Is there anything you need help with? Zheng Fan asked. I can handle any difficulties, but it's really hard to understand why the Foundation won't allow us to increase production of our cars and large electric planes, which are so beneficial in reducing travel and transportation costs, and are much safer than existing products. Yet they insist on selling them at such high prices. Yuli couldn't help but complain. They probably have other considerations. Many things can't just be judged by direct costs. There are deeper reasons. Zhang Fan thought similarly to Yuli, but since he had decided not to intervene casually, he couldn't openly oppose the Foundation's decisions. After leaving Yuli's office, Zhang Fan strolled with his 2 children on the streets of the city, which boasted excellent security, thanks to the omnipresent nanobots and super-intelligent humanoid robots managing the area. Everyone's identity and actions were monitored comprehensively. As long as one did not violate the local regulations, privacy and property rights would be well protected. Anyone who broke the rules would find it very difficult to continue living there, facing expulsion and being blacklisted by the Foundation, making life hard worldwide thereafter. For those who followed the rules, this place was a paradise of freedom, offering the best products, food, and services in the safest and fairest environment. Whether for tourism or business, the city was filled with greenery, making the hot summer days feel bearable. Not far from the hotel, there was a bustling commercial pedestrian street, the most vibrant part of this emerging city. Various shops lined both sides of the street, offering specialty foods, brand clothing, daily necessities, and large supermarkets. With people of different languages, skin colors, and outfits coming and going, the street was over 30 meters wide, paved with a material that was neither stone nor plastic or cement, soft like luss, yet with some elasticity. You could leave a footprint that would slowly return to its original state, making walking very comfortable. In the center of the street stood a row of ginkgo trees, about 10 centimeters in diameter, already reaching 4 to 5 meters in height, creating a large shaded area beneath their dense canopies where many pedestrians rested on benches. Zhang Hua hopped ahead, intrigued by everything he saw, turning to ask his sister and father questions. He picked up a yellow leaf and proudly asked Zheng Yu's sister, "Do you know what tree this leaf is from?" Zheng Yu rolled her eyes, too lazy to engage with her brother, thinking, there are ginkgo trees all over Yanjing. Who hasn't seen one? Why ask such a silly question? What kind of tree's leaf is this? Teach me. Zhang Fan encouraged his son to show off. It's a ginkgo tree, known as the panda of the plant world. It's ancient, and in autumn, the entire tree turns golden yellow, It's beautiful. Once, Zhenghua couldn't help but boast about his knowledge. Oh, my son knows so much. He's really smart. He felt a bit shy being praised and thought that his father and sister probably already knew. Chapter 236. Crystal Ball. In addition to restaurants, clothing stores, beauty salons, and brand outlets, the area was filled with shops selling various specialty products from different planets, minerals, and soils. Most of these shops were bustling with people coming and going, making it look very lively. Not only were there many shops, but there were also numerous vendors under the shade of trees selling all sorts of peculiar stones, books, antiques, and assorted small goods. Anything you could think of, and things you couldn't imagine, were available for sale. The vendors were a diverse mix of people. In between the stalls selling goods, there were also booths offering services like yin yang divination, 5 elements feng shui, fortune-telling, astrology, and tarot card readings. Many of these featured local characteristics, and there were also quite a few foreigners trying to attract business in various languages. An elderly man in a deep blue robe with a goat beard, looking somewhat ethereal, was reading fortunes at his stall. Next to him was a foreign woman with dark red curly hair dressed in a purple chiffon skirt, who had laid out a black cloth in front of her. Sitting cross-legged, she had a sparkling crystal ball in front of her and was shuffling a deck of tarot cards, murmuring to herself as she arranged them on the cloth. After arranging them, she flipped one card over, recited a few words, and then flipped another. Zheng Yu was very interested in the cards, which were larger than ordinary playing cards and featured intricate designs on both sides. Little girl, would you like a fortune reading? The red-haired woman smiled, speaking Mandarin with perfect fluency, without any accent. Are your cards for sale? Zheng Yu asked. They're my tools for making a living. How could I sell them? The red-haired woman quickly added, seeing the girl about to leave. But if you offer 200 yuan, I could sell them to you and even throw in a little guidebook. Otherwise, if you buy the cards, you won't know how to read them. Zheng Yu used her watch to scan and make the payment, receiving an unopened deck of tarot cards and a booklet of the same size. Zhang Fan, who had followed behind, was a bit surprised. He thought it was just a fortune-telling session, but it turned out she was also selling merchandise. Is your crystal ball for sale? Zhenghua asked eagerly, having lost interest in the cards and instead focusing on the shiny crystal ball. The red-haired woman glanced at Zhang Fan, and seeing he didn't intervene, she said to the little boy, this crystal ball is from the moon and has mysterious powers. It's quite expensive. I have money. How much do you want for it? Zhenghua asked. 10,000 yuan. This price exceeded Zheng Hua's expectations. He turned to look at his father and then at his sister, who was still examining the tarot cards, hesitating and unsure. Why would you buy that thing? We're going to the moon in a few days. It'll definitely be cheaper there. Zhang Fan chuckled. But I like this one. Dad, buy it for me as my birthday gift. Zhenghua came up with a good idea. Your birthday is still over 3 months away. How can you ask for a gift in advance? Zheng Yu quickly objected. Sis, how about we buy it together? You can play with it first. Zheng Hua pleaded, pulling at his sister's arm. I don't want it. What toy have you liked for more than a year? Zheng Yu retorted. I'll buy it from you at a low price then. Zheng Yu was calculating carefully. Partnering in the purchase would require 5,000, but later on, collecting scrap would only need 500. Hey there, how much can you offer? I can give you a discount. The red-haired woman noticed the deal was about to fall through and hurried to salvage it. Zheng Hua, who was buying from a street vendor for the first time, didn't expect to get a discount and exclaimed joyfully, I only have 5,000. Is that okay? A few other vendors nearby, currently without business, were watching their transaction with smiles. The red-haired woman glanced at Zhang Fan again, smiling as she lifted the crystal ball and handed it to Zheng Hua. This mysterious crystal ball from the moon is now yours. Good luck, handsome. After completing the purchase, they continued to stroll down the street. Zheng Hua held the crystal ball, feeling fresh and excited for a few minutes, but soon his hands began to ache. The crystal ball wasn't too large, but it felt heavier than the watermelon he had carried that day. Dad, I can't hold it anymore. Can you help me carry it for a bit? Zheng Hua sought assistance. Sure. With his hands freed, Zheng Hua began to skip ahead. The pedestrian street stretched 2 to 3 kilometers. And after more than an hour of walking, they reached the end, having only browsed the shops and stalls on the north side without buying much. The southern side had less shade and fewer stalls, but the number of shops remained the same. As they walked back along the southern path of the street, Zheng Hua continued to skip ahead, while Zheng Yu followed, and Zheng Fan and Yuan leisurely walked at the back. Suddenly, Zheng Hua stopped in his tracks. He spotted a shop displaying crystal balls as well. He turned back to look at what his dad was holding. Dad, that shop also sells crystal balls. They look the same. Zheng Hua shouted, pointing at the store. Go ask them how much they sell it for. Zheng Yu encouraged her brother with a smile. Zheng Hua ran over to the shop and spoke a few words with the woman behind the counter, returning with a displeased expression. What did they say? How much are they selling it for? Zheng Yu asked. They only sell it for 1,000, but it looks similar. Zheng Hua replied, feeling frustrated that he had spent so much money, which was almost all of his pocket money. Son, things you love are priceless. Didn't you say you liked this one? Zheng Fan consoled. But they look alike. Zheng He lamented. Silly, of course, the crystal balls look the same. If I gave you a glass ball, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Zheng Yu teased. On the way back, Zheng He stopped jumping, feeling very gloomy about his pocket money. He cradled the crystal ball in his hands, walking heavily back to the hotel. Upon returning to his room and lying on his bed, Zheng He suddenly noticed that the color of the crystal ball was no longer transparent. It had become murky, as if something dirty had gotten inside. Dad, my crystal ball is broken. Zheng He ran out of the room, shouting to Zheng Fan, who was drinking water in the living room. Zheng Fan took the crystal ball in one hand, lifted it to his eyes, and observed it closely. It indeed seemed to have become a bit cloudy. Let me see. Sitting on the sofa, Zheng Yu was playing with her newly acquired tarot cards, occasionally glancing into the crystal ball. The grayish hue inside had lightened significantly. Indeed, the mysterious crystal ball seemed to sense her mood. It looked much better now. If she left it for a while longer, those colors would probably fade away completely. Really? Haha. This crystal ball has magical powers. I found a treasure. Zheng He perked up again. How amazing. Brother, will you sell your treasure to me for 1,000? Not selling. Not even for 10,000. Zheng He tightly hugged the treasure as if fearing his sister would snatch it away. Really not selling? You better not regret it. Definitely 1T regret. Unfortunately, Zheng He's good mood was burst by a reality check later that evening. He insisted on holding the crystal ball while dining out because he noticed a hint of red inside it. At the entrance, he bumped into Yu Li, who, seeing Zheng He cradling the crystal ball like a treasure, smiled and gave it a touch, causing the interior of the crystal ball to suddenly shine like the sun. Wow. Zheng He, your treasure can even be used as a light bulb. How amazing. Zheng Yu pretended to be surprised. Looking at the crystal ball that had suddenly transformed into something bulb-like, Zheng He was a bit stunned. Could this treasure have so many functions? It couldn't just be a light bulb, could it? This is a product from our lunar factory. Yours is the advanced version with many features. You can ask Aunt Yuan for more details. Yuli explained, nodding at Zheng Fan before leaving with his group. The crystal ball shone for a while before extinguishing, returning to its previous state. Yuan, who had been following them like an invisible person, explained when everyone looked at her. This is a nanobot synthesized crystal ball. The purity of the silica crystal is higher than that of natural crystal, and it has some special structures. The built-in chip can sense human brainwaves and respond accordingly. What is the price? This was a concern for both Zheng Yu and her brother. This advanced version has a factory price of 1,000. In stores, it generally sells for between 1,005 to 2,000. Some places indeed sell it for tens of thousands. The store displayed the regular version, which is purely decorative and lacks these functions, with a factory price of 500. Hearing this, Zheng He felt a bit disappointed. He initially thought he had bought a treasure, but it turned out to be a mass-produced item, making him feel a bit foolish. Son, don't be sad. Just consider it a lesson learned. Next time you feel impulsive about buying something, remember today's experience. Zheng Fan comforted his son, hoping that sometimes learning from a mistake is more effective than 100 lectures. In this emerging city, there were certainly more places to explore than just a pedestrian street. Besides the newly developed Tianhu Leisure Park, there was the reconstructed Lulan Ancient City, which was built using documents and materials from the original site. Unlike many ancient cities reconstructed with steel and concrete, this one was authentically rebuilt using the same material components as the ruins, using nanobots for a genuine restoration. And the structural strength of the buildings was even higher than that of ancient times. The name of this emerging city is also planned to be called Lulan, pending approval from higher authorities, after which it can officially become a city. Choosing a name with historical significance can bring considerable advantages, and it sounds much better than the cumbersome name Lake Lop Nur. In addition to reconstructing the ancient city of Lulan, 3 distinctive museums have been built: the Silk Road Museum, the Atomic Bomb Museum, and the Interstellar Museum. The first 2 focus on historical aspects, while the largest, the Interstellar Museum, discusses the present and future, helping visitors better understand the city. The base has also established its own farms and pastures, growing various vegetables, fruits, and grains, as well as raising chickens, ducks, cattle, sheep, and other livestock, providing food for millions of residents and tourists. Zheng Fan visited the farm with his son and daughter, and once again was amazed, feeling that the trip was worthwhile. Towering glass buildings, each over 100 meters wide and 1,000 meters long, stand in the midst of the farm, completely different from the pastoral scenery they had imagined. Visitors cannot enter the buildings, but can only stroll through the long observation corridors outside to get a glimpse. Each building covers an area of 150 acres and features a special structure that allows ample sunlight to reach every level. With 50 floors in total, it effectively expands to 500 acres, utilizing soilless cultivation techniques. Thanks to the abundant sunlight, staple crops like wheat and rice can be harvested 3 times a year. Different vegetables and fruits have varying growth cycles, which we adjust based on actual needs. Yuan Yuan has become their dedicated guide, earnestly answering their questions. Zheng Fan was also shocked to hear how many such buildings had been constructed. In this sun-drenched desert, the abundant sunlight has become an advantage. Currently, there are 300 buildings in the farm complex and another 300 in the pasture complex, with each building capable of meeting the daily needs of about 10,000 to 20,000 people. Most of our products are supplied to cities on the Moon and Mars, where conditions are far harsher and they cannot achieve stable self-sufficiency. Any surplus is supplied to nearby cities. This cultivation model can almost completely ignore the impacts of weather, pests, and other natural factors. As long as there is sufficient water and nutrients, growth can be sustained continuously and stably. The structure of the pasture buildings is similar, with a much higher density of livestock compared to grasslands. On average, each cow has only a few dozen square meters of space to move around, while the grasslands beneath them move slowly like a conveyor belt. Even with constant grazing day and night, the grass never runs out, allowing cattle and sheep to grow throughout the year. The improved pasture grass grows astonishingly fast, with a growth cycle of less than a month. As the grass in front is eaten, new grass grows behind, completing a full growth cycle just in time. The space required for pasture grass is much smaller than that for grain crops, and the yield from a single building can be dozens of times greater than that of grains. Additionally, it can simultaneously support the raising of 30,000 cattle. And if raising sheep or other small livestock, the numbers can increase even further. After a day of visiting, it's clear that the cultivation and breeding here have been completely industrialized. There's no need for human operation. Various meats, vegetables, and grains are delivered directly to supermarket shelves or brought to people's doorsteps on schedule. There are even further services that prepare specific meals for delivery, and customized canteens that can meet your dining needs around the clock. Not only was Zheng Fan taken aback, but the two children were also astonished. Their mouths agape in disbelief. It was beyond imagination. Dad, will we humans be raised like the cattle and sheep here in the future, spending our days just eating and sleeping? Zheng Yu pondered and asked. In a broad sense, it's somewhat similar. Over 80% of the population here is in such a state, but their freedom is much greater than in the past. They no longer have to be confined to a small circle day after day just to survive, living lives they are weary of. This is also a significant progress. Many people's thoughts and habits haven't adapted to the changes brought about by technological advancements. It feels so sad. Young as she is, Zheng Yu was already quite sentimental. Dad, I also saw the watermelons growing inside. They are all suspended in midair. Do they need people to harvest them too? Zheng Huo was less contemplative and more worried about how the watermelons would be harvested, seeing so many of them densely packed together. The watermelons here are planted and harvested by robots, and their efficiency is very high. We just need to wait to eat. Zheng Fan answered his son's question first. He didn't know how to respond to his daughter's sentiments. He shared the same feelings. The future of this path remains uncertain, whether it is right or wrong. In the long river of time, everyone is in it, flowing forward with the current. Many wise figures have struggled, but they only managed to briefly surface to take a look before sinking back down, continuing to flow with the tide. Current developments have exceeded his expectations, far better than he had imagined. Many people have lost their jobs, yet they have not lost their security, preventing social turmoil. Those who want to strive can still find direction, while those who wish to relax can do so freely, and travelers can go wherever they please. The gap between people has shrunk to the smallest it has ever been, and the role of money is no longer as exaggerated as in the past. Whether you spend millions or billions on cars and planes, I can still experience similar things with just tens or hundreds. The most expensive items are merely tools for transportation. Luxurious mansions are no longer so eye-catching. They are just places to sleep. Rich and poor alike still need to eat, drink, and seek treatment for illnesses, enjoying similar levels of care. When the time comes, everyone will die. No amount of wealth can grant immortality. Scientists who achieve significant breakthroughs and artists, painters, writers, musicians, who create outstanding works are even more sought after. In a situation where material enjoyment differences are minimal, the importance of wealth diminishes compared to the past. The label of being wealthy is no longer something everyone envies. People have begun to pursue relaxation of the spirit and appreciation of beauty more. Under the omnipresent surveillance of superintelligent systems, power has been maximally regulated. Civil servants are truly just civil servants, no longer enjoying privileges or power over others. Ordinary people can completely disregard them, and only those idealists willing to contribute to society will choose to be involved. The self-serving individuals have long since changed their course. With the example set by humanoid robots, societal norms are slowly shifting. People queue to buy things, and if you cut in line, robots can refuse to serve you. No amount of shouting will help, as you will experience being ignored. If you dare to act out, they can swiftly teach you a lesson, and your behavior will be recorded in a credit system, ensuring that you will receive different treatment wherever you go. It is a nearly perfect social structure, with no significant social conflicts. As long as people abide by the law, everyone can live without worry about food and clothing, go where they wish, and do what they want. However, Zhang Fan always feels that something is not quite right, yet he cannot pinpoint what it is. Perhaps it is because he has been out of touch with society for too long and has yet to fully integrate into the new world. Chapter 238. Icebound 2. The distance between Venus and Earth is not constant. Although the two planets orbit the Sun in paths that bring them close together, their varying orbital speeds cause the distance between them to fluctuate between 50 million to 260 million kilometers. This creates significant uncertainty for flights between the planets. Each journey's trajectory and timing require precise calculations. To ensure that time discrepancies remain minimal, the speed of the spacecraft must be adjusted significantly. Fortunately, fusion reactors provide ample power, as, based on previous human propulsion levels, a round trip would take at least 1 to 2 years, not accounting for fuel weight. How are you feeling? Are you eager to return? Su Lu asked Li Hong, who stood beside her. The two of them were currently at the edge of the dome plaza on Venus 1, gazing at Earth, which appeared as a basin-sized object in the distance. Under the sunlight's reflection, the green and yellow landmasses and blue oceans were clearly distinguishable, along with the white ice caps at the poles. The entire spacecraft was suspended in the dark void of space, seemingly motionless and silent. And how do you feel? You seem so absorbed in your enjoyment that I thought you wanted to stay longer on Venus. Li Hong countered. We're good sisters, of course we come and go together. How could I let you return alone? That would be so untrustworthy. I'm not that kind of person. Under Li Hong's gaze, Su Lu had to concede. All right, I admit. I miss your husband too, is that okay? What's wrong with saying it? Didn't you always speak your mind before? Why are you becoming more conflicted as you age? Li Hong replied with a satisfied smile. When we were younger, we could speak freely without concerns. Now, I find myself worrying about every little thing. I really feel like I'm getting old. Su Lu lamented. As they continued their conversation, the spacecraft began to decelerate. The dome plaza turned away from Earth, and the bottom of the spacecraft started to emit a long stream of charged particles. If they could not reduce speed to the first cosmic velocity within an hour, the spacecraft would miss its rendezvous with Earth. On Earth, Zhang Fan and his son and daughter had just finished their lunch. They had attended a training session for the lunar travel tour in the morning and were now eagerly waiting for the arrival of the Venus 1 spacecraft in the afternoon to welcome Li Hong back. With lunar and Martian travel becoming more routine, going to space was no longer as unattainable as it used to be. The anti-gravity system of Lunar 1 had relatively low physical requirements, even lower than those for traveling to Tibet. Their training for first-time space travelers was highly streamlined. As long as they passed the medical examination, completed some simple weightlessness experience training, and attended a 2-hour lecture, they were good to go. Only first-time travelers needed this training. Subsequent trips only required passing the medical checkup, and many people going to work and live on the moon could even skip the medical examination. Dad, where is Mom now? Is it farther from us to home? Asked Zheng Hua, sitting on the sofa and touching his belly, posing a challenging question. Although he didn't know the answer, Zhang Fan wasn't embarrassed. He believed in knowing what he knew and acknowledging what he didn't. He turned to Yuan, who was standing aside, and said, Why don't you help us out here? The Venus 1 spacecraft hasn't yet entered the Earth's synchronous orbit. It's slowing down and is 130,000 kilometers away from Earth. Yuan replied. We are 3,000 kilometers from home. Dad said it would take 2 days to get there. Can Mom reach us in 5 hours from that distance? Zheng Hua felt his math skills were a bit lacking. That's different. Mom is in space. And the spacecraft is traveling fast, covering dozens of kilometers in a second. Our car only goes a few dozen kilometers in an hour. Zheng Yu was much smarter than her brother. All right, it's time for a nap. The spacecraft won't land until 5 in the afternoon. Zhang Fan ushered his son and daughter back to their room. At 3 in the afternoon, Zhang Fan brought his 2 sleepy children to the command center of the space base. In the central hall, there was a massive 3D projection centered on Earth, displaying real-time information about the surrounding area, including hundreds of thousands of various satellites and several Lunar 1-class spacecraft about to land. The spacecraft, which looked like towering buildings from the ground, appeared no larger than dice in this projection, and Earth was only slightly larger than a basketball. To ensure visibility, this projection was somewhat distorted. It was designed for visitors to observe. If it were displayed strictly to scale, many satellites and spacecraft would require a magnifying glass to see, which would defeat the purpose of the demonstration. Several giant screens on the walls displayed conditions of various bases. A red-yellow spacecraft was slowly landing on the ground, and from its color, it was evident that it came from Mars. The large digital number indicated that this was the Mars 15 spacecraft. Currently, there were the most spacecraft on the lunar route, totaling 40, while there were 30 Martian spacecraft. Aside from transporting tourists, the primary goal of these spacecraft was to ferry supplies back and forth, transporting living supplies for human residents from Earth and bringing back scarce resources or products from the Moon and Mars. There were 5 spacecraft each for Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn, along with a few more flying to other planets and the more distant Kuiper Belt, primarily to transport a small number of researchers for field studies. In the three-dimensional projection, 2 spacecraft can be seen flying in low Earth orbit, preparing to decelerate before landing. To reduce the influence of their anti-gravity devices on each other, they will not land simultaneously. Dad, do you know which spacecraft Mom is on? I know. Zheng Huo proudly exclaimed, tugging at Zheng Fan's arm. Which one? How do you know? Zheng Fan asked, playing along. The silvery one is the lunar spacecraft. The Martian spacecraft has already landed. Today, only these 3 spacecraft will land, and that black one with a bright spot is definitely Venus 1. Mom is on that one. Zheng Huo analyzed while counting on his fingers. My son is really smart. Zheng Fan praised. They were not the only ones visiting. There were others as well. Due to the need for advanced applications and hefty fees, not many people were there. The reception hall outside also had large screens displaying real-time information about the spacecraft. Behind them was a mother and her child. The kid appeared to be around 10 years old, about the same height as Zheng Yu, wearing frameless glasses. The woman, in her 30s, was dressed in a qipao and had short hair, looking quite serene. Following them was a young woman, likely a round, robotic assistant. Not only are these 3 spacecraft landing today, but there will also be a special spacecraft landing. The boy with glasses said from behind. I'm sorry. My child is young and doesn't he understand. Sorry to disturb you. The child's mother hurriedly apologized when she noticed Zheng Fan and the others turning around. It's fine. Kids are kids. It's good for them to make friends with peers. Zheng Fan waved his hand dismissively. What other spacecraft are landing? How do you know? Zheng Yu asked, disregarding the adult's pleasantries, voicing the same curiosity her brother had. The boy with glasses felt a bit shy under Zheng Yu's gaze. Avoiding eye contact and looking at the three-dimensional projection, he replied, the Icebound 2 from Europa. My dad is on it. Chapter 239. Cooling down just as the spacecraft's name suggests, Icebound 2 is primarily composed of massive ice blocks. Many moons of Jupiter and Saturn are covered by thick layers of ice, especially Europa and Ganymede. When considering the ice and the water beneath it, every moon contains more water than Earth. Europa, in particular, has a diameter of over 5,000 kilometers, making it larger than Mercury. And it also has a magnetic field and thin oxygen atmosphere, being known as the largest moon in the solar system. The Jupiter orbital probe launched by NUA eventually landed on Europa, and the main scientific research base for Jupiter is currently located on Ganymede. The surface of this moon is covered mostly by an ice layer averaging over 150 kilometers thick, with only a few land peaks visible. As a result, someone in the strategic committee proposed to mine the ice layer of Ganymede and transport it to the Martian and lunar bases, which would significantly reduce the supply pressure on both planets and expand the scale of the colonization cities. The proposer was Fei Qinggong, the father of the boy with glasses. After the proposal was accepted, he led a team to work on Ganymede for 2.5 years, successfully constructing the first batch of 5 spacecraft capable of carrying massive ice blocks. This time, 3 spacecraft flew directly to Mars for landing, 1 headed to the moon, and he returned to Earth aboard the last completed Icebound 2. The mother, named Wu Min, was originally a university teacher, but after having children, she became a full-time homemaker. Over the years, she has been at home taking care of the kids, and later started writing part-time, though she hasn't gained much recognition. It just gives her something to do to avoid boredom. At first, the 3 children were a bit awkward, but they gradually became familiar with each other and engaged in lively conversations, while the 2 adults, after exchanging a few pleasantries, found themselves at a loss for words. This hall, apart from the central 3-dimensional projection and the large screen on the wall, also has several rows of cinema-like seats where people can sit and watch the live feed of the spacecraft's takeoff and landing. They sat in the front row, with the 3 children in the middle and the 2 adults on the sides, watching the live footage from 2 spacecraft on the big screen. The 2 spacecraft were at different altitudes, and the images they transmitted showed different views of the Earth. The lunar No. 9 spacecraft had slowed down to an orbit within 200 kilometers and was about to enter the hovering landing area, while the Venus 1 was still in a 500-kilometer orbit, continuing to decelerate. Zheng Yu encountered peers with a similar knowledge base for the first time, and Fei Ting clearly understood even more than she did. They hit it off well, while Zheng Hui gradually fell silent, unable to comprehend many of the terms they used, and could only listen in bewilderment. The lunar No. 9 spacecraft was currently flying over the Sahara Desert, and that landmass that was broad on one end and pointed on the other was the African continent, with the large yellow area on top being where their new space base was located, right in the center of the desert. Fei Ting pointed to the screen and explained. Right in front was the Indian Ocean, and the spacecraft was about to hover and land. Zheng Yu added. The Mars 15 spacecraft took just over half an hour from hovering to landing. This lunar spacecraft will be similar. The only difference is that the lunar spacecraft has less deceleration time. It launched into Earth's orbit later than Venus 1, yet it can land earlier. Feiting said, pushing his finger against his eye. Why does it have less deceleration time? Isn't that cutting in line? Zheng He was a bit unhappy to hear that this spacecraft would land ahead of schedule. The moon is relatively close to Earth, so the spacecraft doesn't need to travel at a high speed. Slower speeds mean shorter deceleration times, and this landing sequence was arranged before takeoff. Amid the children's discussions, the lunar number 9 stopped flying, as if the image was stuck and no longer moving. Upon closer inspection, one could see that the ground scenery was gradually coming closer and enlarging. In half an hour, the spacecraft descended from nearly 100 kilometers to the ground, a speed faster than most cars on Earth. Moreover, there are over 5,000 kilometers from the equator over the Indian Ocean to the Lop Nur to reduce landing time. The spacecraft would draw an arc in its final flight phase, flying directly above the base before beginning to hover and land. This was the safest and fastest method concluded from multiple landings, and it also saves a significant amount of fusion fuel. The largest fuel consumption during a lunar mission occurs during takeoff and landing on Earth, accounting for over 70. After the lunar number 9 landed, the Venus 1 entered a near-Earth orbit of 200 kilometers and began preparations for landing. Dad, let's go outside to watch Mom's spacecraft land. Zheng He turned to Zheng Fan and said, outside, only part of it can be seen, but here it is clearer, more comprehensive, and also safer. Zheng Fan dispelled his son's thoughts. Look, that's Icebound 2. It's coming. The boy with glasses, Fei Tong, stood up excitedly, pointing at the screen and shouting. His father, whom he hadn't seen in nearly 3 years, was up there, and he couldn't help but express his emotions. His mother, Wu Min, glanced around apologetically for her son's loud outburst, but she couldn't bring herself to scold him. Instead, she placed her hand on his shoulder, encouraging him to sit down. Fei Tong then realized his behavior was inappropriate and quickly sat down, lowering his voice to say to Zheng Yu, who was smiling with pursed lips, can you guess how big this spaceship is? The giant screen in front had already been divided into 3 sections, one of which displayed a massive ice ball slowly rotating as it approached Earth. A small white sphere, about the size of a ping-pong ball, was shown moving at high speed along an elliptical flight path. Nowadays, spaceships are built to the standard of Lunar 1, as cubic structures with each side measuring 100 meters. Based on the scale just shown, Icebound 2 should have a diameter of about 3 to 5 times that. Zheng Yu quickly calculated in her mind and replied. The three-dimensional projection was distorted and inaccurate. Icebound 2's diameter actually exceeds 1,000 meters, with a total volume of over 530 million cubic meters. When completely melted, it would yield more than 400 million cubic meters of water, which is more than 20 times the volume of West Lake. It is over 5 times the amount of water in the nearby Tianhu. This is what my dad told me personally. Fei Ting couldn't help but brag. But the ice ball can't land around Tianhu, right? That much water wouldn't fit. Where will this ice ball land? This answer was a bit beyond Zheng Yu's imagination. A dedicated landing site has been prepared 20 kilometers west of Base 4, where the ice ball will be buried underground, forming an underground reservoir after melting. The moisture evaporates too quickly on the surface. The temperature here will drop significantly soon. We even brought down jackets. The little boy said mysteriously. The two of them spoke softly, while Zheng He's attention was completely captivated by the scene of Venus 1 landing. The spaceship descended slowly, and the ground scenery grew larger and clearer. The building housing the command center of the base was located on the northern side of the oval Tianhu, with several museums further north, the reconstructed ancient city of Lulan. And to the east of Tianhu was the new urban area. To the south of Tianhu were large agricultural and ranching complexes, while the western side of Tianhu featured a series of bases and warehouses lined up from east to west. Less than a kilometer to the west of the lake was the Lunar 1 spaceship base, followed by the Mars spaceship base at Base 2, the Venus spaceship base at Base 3, and other planetary spaceship bases at Base 4. The first 3 bases each have a width of 5 kilometers, while Base 4, the largest, spans over 10 kilometers, with the fewest spaceships and the most open area. Aside from the surface areas for docking and warehouses, there are also extensive underground factory areas. Base 1 primarily produces the somewhat famous Lop Nur vehicles and key components for fusion reactors. Base 2 mainly houses electric aircraft factories, manufacturing various civilian aircraft. The underground factory at Base 3 is still quite small, mainly processing beef and lamb brought over from Venus. These products are considered specialty agricultural products and are priced several times higher than the locally produced beef and lamb, yet they are still in short supply. Various purported benefits and deliciousness have led many people to flock to them eagerly. The landing process of Ship 1 was equally smooth, taking half an hour from hovering to touchdown. Zheng Fan and his companions bid farewell to Wu Min and her son Fei Tong and left the command hall. Chapter 240. A long-awaited reunion. The building housing the command hall is somewhat similar to an airport terminal. Passengers traveling to the moon, Mars, or any other planet need to transfer here. There is a designated waiting area for check-in and large luggage handling. Once the procedures are completed, they are sent directly to the corresponding base below via an underground transport network and can take an elevator straight into the spacecraft. Zhang Fan and his child had no special privileges and could only wait for Li Hong and the others to come out of the spacecraft. After the spacecraft landed, Zheng Hua eagerly pulled Zhang Fan and his sister to the waiting hall to await their mother's return. The half-hour wait felt as long as several hours. Finally, the large passenger exit doors of Base 3 opened, and a crowd emerged, dragging large and small pieces of luggage. Zheng Hua was too short and jumped up to look for his mother among the crowd. Zhang Fan lifted his son onto his shoulders to save energy while looking down. After more than 10 minutes, fewer people were coming out, and Li Hong was still nowhere in sight. Climbing down from his father's shoulders, Zheng Hua asked the robot behind them, "Aunt Yuan, is my mom not back yet? She'll be here soon. They just want to avoid the crowd and are coming out a bit later. Are you so anxious? Can't you wait a little longer?" Zheng Yu scolded her brother. Just then, a woman in a dark gray suit with her hair up, Li Hong, along with Su Lu in a flowing white dress, stepped out. Two robot assistants, Han Bai and Su Lele, followed closely behind with an automatic luggage cart carrying several large suitcases. "Mom, Mom," Zheng Hua shouted as he rushed over. Li Hong picked him up, spun him around, then put him down, unable to hold him for long due to his weight of over 50 pounds. "Come here. Godmother wants a hug." Su Lu lifted Zheng Hua and spun him around as well. Zheng Yu stepped forward to greet them. She wasn't as bold as her brother to ask for a hug at her age, but she felt excited to see her mother after more than a month apart. Previously, when their mother was busy with work, they saw her every day and didn't think much of it, often finding her nagging and strict. However, after such a long separation, they truly missed her. Zhang Fan and his wife exchanged glances. To others, it seemed like he had only taken a short nap. But in the game, he had spent a lifetime with another woman. At this moment, facing his wife, he felt a mix of estrangement, guilt, and love. A myriad of emotions flooding his heart. Li Hong's thoughts were not as complicated. After letting go of her son and daughter, she quickly stepped up to Zhang Fan, embracing him tightly. All the hardships and grievances of the past years felt worth it, and her heart was filled only with joy and excitement. Tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. "All right, let us hold on for a bit. There are so many people watching." Su Lu was talking on one side, interrupting the embrace of the two people. After all, in the hall, they hadn't seen each other for so long, and their hug wasn't as long as theirs. "We're staying at the hotel next door. You just got off the spaceship, so go wash up and rest. We'll welcome you tonight." Zhang Fan said. "You should enjoy your family reunion. I won't be a bother. I have someone picking me up, so I'll head out first." Su Lu smiled as she bid them farewell, waving her hand towards a nearby direction, joining her assistant and team. Now she was a big boss. No longer the insignificant little host she used to be. "She has a house here, much more luxurious than the hotel we're staying at. Let us not worry about her. Let us go," Li Hong said as she took the tissue from her daughter and wiped her face. Walking east for a few dozen meters from the arrival hall was the hotel where Zhang Fan and the others were staying, and they reached it in under 2 minutes without needing a car. After 8 days in zero gravity returning from the mission, Li Hong was satisfied after nearly 2 hours in the bathroom. After changing clothes, the family of 4 went out to eat. It was already past 7 in the evening, and the sun had not yet set, but they couldn't see it today because the western sky was obscured by a massive ice ball, the Icebound 2, which had a diameter of over 1,000 meters and was still in the process of landing. At the hotel entrance, they ran into Yu Li, who was just about to head out. Seeing the family, he hurried over to greet them. Boss lady, and the 2 little ones. "Do you want to go welcome the heroes returning from the Icebound 2? We want to go. They're the stars of the day. You go ahead and don't worry about us." Zhang Fan declined. They walked to a nearby Cantonese restaurant where Zhang Fan often brought the kids to eat. Several waiters recognized them and led them to their usual spot, asking them to order. The board is about to change again. Fei Qinggong has a high approval rating and is likely to enter the next term. Why don't you want to reach out? Li Hong asked her lingering doubts. In others' eyes, I'm still resting. There's no need to force an appearance. I also don't want to have too much personal interaction with the other board members, as that might affect future judgments. Zhang Fan didn't mention another reason. He simply didn't want to unnecessarily expand his social circle. Though Li Hong didn't quite agree with this. "Dad, do you know Fei Ting's dad?" Xing Yu asked. "I've met him a few times. He mainly researches planetary physics and became a doctoral supervisor in his 30s. He has extensive knowledge in that area. Fei Tong is influenced by him. It's a well-educated family." Zhang Fan explained to his daughter. "Dad, I don't like that Fei Tong. He is too arrogant and looks down on people." Xing Hua expressed his opinion. "You're just a kid and don't understand anything. Of course, he won't bother to pay attention to you." Zheng Yu mercilessly countered her brother. "Did you see Fei Qinggong's son just now?" Li Hong asked. We just saw him in the command center hall watching the spaceship land. He and his mom were behind us and spoke to us. Zheng Hua quickly reported. He was pointing out your mistakes. Zheng Yu revealed her brother's shortcomings without hesitation. The dishes they ordered started to arrive, interrupting the siblings' usual banter that was about to begin. Dinner lasted for 50 minutes. During the meal, Zheng Hua and Zheng Yu primarily reported to their mother about the completion of their summer homework, which severely affected the efficiency of their dining. Later, Zheng Fan could no longer stand it and said that this was impacting the children's appetite, which prompted Li Hong to let the siblings eat in peace. After finishing their meal and exiting the restaurant, the family strolled around the large square at the entrance of the pedestrian street to digest their food. During the day, the sun was too harsh, and there were very few people in the square, but at night it became livelier than the pedestrian street, turning into a night market filled with snacks. Several dance groups organized activities featuring square dancing, Argentine tango, Brazilian samba, Tibetan guzhwang dance, Northeast Daong dance, among many others that Zheng Fan did not recognize. Dancers from all walks of life and various ethnicities filled the square, and among them were foreigners dancing guzhwang and locals dancing samba and tango. There was no need for complex verbal communication. Simple gestures were enough to join in the fun. The dance activities usually lasted until midnight, bustling with excitement. Zheng Fan was interested in martial arts, but not in dancing, having no talent for it. However, his children enjoyed themselves immensely, eagerly joining in on any dance they saw. After playing in the square for over an hour and sweating profusely, they returned to the hotel to shower and rest. The children quickly went to their respective rooms to sleep, while Zheng Fan and Li Hong, having reunited after a long time, had much to talk about and didn't fall asleep until after midnight. The next morning, Assistant Han Bai took the siblings for a morning run and then to the hotel restaurant for breakfast. When they returned, it was already past 8 o'clock, and Zheng Fan and Li Hong had just gotten out of bed. Yuan informed them that Fei Chenggong was coming to visit with his family. They were also staying at the same hotel. Fei Chenggong was a few years younger than Zheng Fan, just turning 40 this year, but his hair was already sparse and gray, with a high hairline that could easily make him look over 50. Standing next to the dark-haired Zheng Fan, they seemed like 2 generations apart. His wife, Wu Min, was only 2 years younger and looked almost like his daughter, while their teenage son, Fei Tong, resembled a grandson. Mr. Fei looked even younger than 8 years ago. He took the initiative to step forward and shake hands. Zheng Fan joked, "I took a lazy nap, but you, Professor Fei, are the one working hard. The achievements of the Jupiter base today are all thanks to your dedication. Now that I'm back, I'll rest well and spend more time with my family. Don't block the doorway, come in and chat." Zheng Fan added, "Professor Fei, Teacher Wu, please don't mind. He is not very good at socializing." Li Hong quickly smoothed things over and invited the Fei family inside. Wu Min was also a rather homebody-type woman. After meeting Zheng Fan in the command hall yesterday, she had connected him to the founder of the Reptile Foundation. After reuniting with her husband in the evening and discussing the day's events, Fei Chenggong immediately understood Zheng Fan's identity. Seeing such a great opportunity to strengthen their relationship, he took the initiative to visit today. After some simple pleasantries, Fei Chenggong began to share his experiences from the past few years in a casual conversation. Becoming a doctoral supervisor in his 30s was largely thanks to his study experience at a prestigious university abroad. He earned his associate professor qualification early and became a key talent sought by the nation, specializing in an emerging field that had previously received little attention. His arrival established him as an authority in that area. After teaching for 2 years domestically, he settled down, got married, and started a family, thinking that life would simply continue like this. Given the technological level at the time, reaching the moon was already a significant challenge, let alone exploring other planets. He never dared to imagine that he could personally investigate other celestial bodies. The world is truly fascinating, as mentioned in the three-body problem. A technological explosion could happen at any time. A once backward civilization could leap into the interstellar age in just a few decades or centuries, which, in the cosmic scale, is equivalent to a blink of an eye. A few years later, he became the first leader of a mission to explore Jupiter's orbit, tasked with turning his theories into reality. The once crazy ideas were gradually being realized under his guidance, and that feeling was indescribably wonderful. Our first immigrant city is built beneath the ice of one of Jupiter's moons. Initially, it may not develop as quickly as the city on Venus, but our safety is far superior. Solar storms are hard to predict accurately, and unknown small celestial bodies could strike at any moment, potentially destroying all our achievements. Jupiter's orbit is much safer. Solar storms rarely reach the distant planet, and small celestial bodies find it difficult to invade Jupiter's orbit. Jupiter can provide us with an inexhaustible source of fusion energy, and its moon has abundant water reserves. Numerous satellites contain almost all known elements, especially various rare Earth reserves. Our preliminary exploration results indicate a richness that far exceeds that of Earth. After talking for over an hour, he finally paused to drink some water. How large is your city now, and how many immigrants can it accommodate while being self-sufficient? Li Hong asked, expressing her concern. For safety reasons, we have constructed dozens of dispersed functional areas 20 kilometers beneath the ice, covering a total area of over 3,000 square kilometers. We are building farms, ranches, and living areas simultaneously. The first phase is designed for 500,000 people, and if necessary, it can be expanded to accommodate up to 10 million residents, surpassing the total of 12 cities on Mars. In the past 2 years, he has not only focused on extracting ice, but has also devoted most of his time to site selection and the construction of this future city. People's expectations have risen. Merely addressing basic needs is not enough. Even introverts need to occasionally get some fresh air. Have you considered any special projects? When Fan asked, visitors may come for a short time, but it could be challenging for long-term residents, right? Let's learn from the successful experiences on the Moon and Mars. We have a large area available for expansion, and we are not lacking in water and oxygen. Several relatively large moons, such as Europa and Ganymede, have similar geological conditions. We will build cities in the future and can travel back and forth using small spacecraft. The potential for development here will not be less than that of Earth. There are over 100 large moons discovered in Jupiter's orbit, and we have only explored a dozen, so there is still much work to be done. We are preparing to establish Jupiter University, and this trip is mainly focused on this work. Please help us recruit students. When talking about his beloved work, Fei Chung was full of energy, and Fei Ting looked at his father with admiration. Uncle Fei, what are the admission requirements for Jupiter University? Asked Xing Yu with interest. Under 30 years old, and basic listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills are enough. We do not charge any fees, and there are scholarships that cover food, accommodation, and job placement. Fei Chung answered without hesitation, clearly having thought about it for a long time. These conditions don't sound like those of a university. They sound more like a recruiting advertisement for a private school from the past. It sounds almost like a scam. Li Hong laughed. Haste makes waste. You should really consider hiring professionals to help you plan. You can't just think about how to lure people in. You also need to consider what kind of students you want. Otherwise, if you work hard to recruit students, but half of them leave, it would be counterproductive. Zhang Fan also felt that Fei Chung was being a bit naive, indicating that having a high education level doesn't mean one is proficient in everything. I find your recruitment advertisement amusing, and you don't seem to appreciate it, Fei Chung retorted, claiming that I was out of touch with society. You aren't much better. Wu Min, who had been quiet, chimed in. I think Dad's advertisement is great. I want to go. Fei Tung defended his idol. I also think Uncle's recruitment advertisement is excellent. There are no fees, plus they offer money and job placements. It highlights key points and is attractive to many students. Xing Yu also shared her opinion. Fei Chung did not expect his ideas to spark such controversy and quickly stated that he would consider it further. In any case, they couldn't recruit students this year, and establishing the school was not that simple. Even if everything went smoothly, they might not be able to enroll students until next year or the year after, so there was plenty of time. The family spent the whole morning together, and both adults and children enjoyed their conversations. Only Zheng He felt bored and went to his room for some extended reading. Zhang Fan and his wife treated them to a delicious Cantonese meal at a restaurant they visited the day before, which concluded their gathering. Back at the hotel, Li Hong carefully checked the two children's summer homework completion. She flipped through their practice books page by page, even asking Zhang Fan to help check them. They checked Zheng Yu's practice book, and Zheng Yu checked her brother's, with a strictness comparable to a teacher grading papers. Then they reviewed their essays on social practice. And the unforgettable experience of picking watermelons was well written by both, making Li Hong smile broadly. Having been satisfied with the earlier checks, the review of extended reading was not as strict. Li Hong announced, the summer homework is completed well. We will set off to the moon tomorrow. The two children cheered in unison. Chapter 242 and 2157. 4 large cities were built along the equator of the moon, spaced out by more than 500 kilometers each. They are Shinong City, Xianyuan City, Chaoga City, and Shichi City. Shinong City focuses on research in the fields of humanities and social sciences, as well as agricultural and pastoral technologies. It is also the largest production base for grains, meat, and vegetables on the moon. Xianyuan City primarily conducts research in foundational theories such as mathematics and physics, along with mineral extraction and new material synthesis. Chaoga City leans towards research in cosmology, astrophysics, and high-energy physics. Shichi City focuses on life sciences, genetics, quantum theory, and string theory. To minimize the influence of ideology, religion, nationality, and ethnicity on scientific research, the Crawling Foundation selects talents worldwide to establish research institutes in the 4 cities, which later gradually expanded into universities named after these cities. The establishment of these 4 universities laid a foundation for urban migration, gradually developing into the current scale. Due to the lack of a global magnetic field on the moon, With only localized magnetic fields in certain iron ore-rich areas, the landing sites for spacecraft are highly restricted. Typically, lunar flights land at Chauga City, the earliest constructed city, which has a vast high-quality magnetic iron ore deposit underground, ranking among the top 10 in reserves on Earth. Its magnetic field significantly reduces energy consumption during spacecraft takeoff and landing. As the number of fusion reactors built and operated by the crawling foundation increases, the once predicted inexhaustible resource of helium-3 on the moon has begun to become scarce. Although nanobots can mine it efficiently, the actual availability is limited. And this substance can only exist in gas form, making large-scale storage problematic. It can only be mined as needed while maintaining a certain reserve. Another fusion material, deuterium, is rare on the moon, with the main sources still being on Earth. However, stable sources have recently begun to emerge from Venus and Jupiter, alleviating concerns about energy acquisition in the short term. Zheng Fan's family landed in Chauga City aboard the Moon 21 spacecraft and entered the underground transportation system through the elevator at the bottom of the spacecraft. Arriving at the waiting hall, the passengers in the same batch were diverse, including scientists and teachers coming to work on the moon, students seeking education, and mostly tourists, who were further divided into luxury groups, regular groups, and independent travelers, with varying services and fees. They, of course, booked the luxury group, the most expensive option, enjoying the best services and staying in the finest rooms at the top hotel in Chauga City. Upon exiting the waiting hall, they arrived at the main street of the underground city. Looking up, they were surprised to see a sun in the sky, with blue skies and white clouds. Despite knowing it was artificial, they couldn't help but admire how realistic the environmental simulation was. Dad, does the underground city also have a distinction between day and night? Zheng Yu asked curiously. I'm not sure. Yuan, what do you think? Zheng Fan passed the question to the versatile assistant. Most of the underground cities on the Moon and Mars adopt the same architectural model, featuring superspaces with heights exceeding 5,000 meters. The top is covered with a specially constructed giant dome that can simulate the movements of celestial bodies in real time. This city corresponds to the original site of a location on Earth, covering an area of 120 square kilometers, with a permanent population of 800,000 and a steady flow of around 100,000 tourists throughout the year. In just a few moments, they arrived at their hotel, a gigantic building so tall that its top was almost out of sight. A robotic concierge at the entrance helped them retrieve their luggage from an automated cart and guided them to the elevator. The elevator did not have the usual floor buttons. Instead, it seemed to know their destination, with constantly changing numbers indicating the floors they were passing. The display continued until it reached 327, and Zheng Hua's mouth dropped open. Aunt Yuan, are we staying on the 327th floor? That's so high. This building stands 2,200 meters tall, making it the tallest in the city, with 500 floors in total. Their room is located in the upper middle section, over 1,400 meters high. The layout of their room closely resembles that of the hotel they stayed at in the Lopner area, clearly from the same brand, which saved them the trouble of readjusting. Dad, when are we going to parkour? Zheng Hua hurried out to ask Zheng Fan just after settling his luggage in the room. Maybe tomorrow. We just arrived today. Let's rest well and adapt to the environment first. You don't want to perform worse than your classmates, do you? Of course not. Zheng Hua replied, feeling frustrated as he flopped onto the sofa and switched on the TV. Looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the crowd below, they appeared as tiny ants. Insignificant in size, Zheng Fan pondered whether falling from such a height would be fatal or if the lighter gravity would only result in minor injuries. You definitely won't die from jumping down here. Yuan, who had appeared beside him at some point, said. Is there any safety measure in the building? Zheng Fan wasn't surprised that she could guess his thoughts, considering how long they had been together. Yes, there are intelligent surveillance systems in every high-risk area. If someone falls, an inflatable mattress will be deployed 3 seconds before they hit the ground, and there are safety nets activated every 100 meters. That's very thoughtful. Zheng Fan exclaimed in admiration. The building also has an indoor sports center. You, Xing Yu, and Zheng Hua can go test yourselves and participate in the 2157th Lunar Games. Yuan suggested. Over 2,000 editions of the games. Is it held once a day? The number startled Zheng Fan. It seemed exaggerated, considering the Olympic Games had been around for over 100 years and only had 30 editions. Yuan couldn't help but laugh. This is a trick thought up by your president, Chen Fei. Only first-time visitors to the moon have the chance to participate, regardless of gender or age. Initially, each person could sign up for a maximum of 3 individual events, but due to the high number of applicants, it was changed to a selection based on test results, with only the top 100 qualifying to register for the competition. Testing for selection can happen today, and the official competition starts tomorrow. With medals awarded to the top 3, it's quite meaningful. I want to go. Dad, take me. Zheng Hua, who had been lying on the sofa, quickly jumped up and ran over, tugging on Zhang Fan's arm and acting cute. All right, let us go. Stop shaking. Go call your sister and your mom, and see why they haven't finished getting ready, Zhang Fan said. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Hua ran to knock on Zheng Yu's room door. By the time the family changed their clothes and arrived at the large sports field on the 7th underground level, the selection events had already started for a while. Except for table tennis, badminton, and tennis, which required registration to wait for randomly assigned opponents for preliminary selection. Other events mainly included athletics and other projects with clear performance metrics, allowing for on-the-spot registration for selection tests. There was no limit to the number of tests one could participate in, and anyone interested could join in, but for the competitions the next day, registration was still limited to 3 events. Li Hong had been to the moon before and was no longer eligible to participate, even though she was a major shareholder of the event organizing company, the Interstellar Reptile Travel Agency. Chapter 243. Testing. Zhang Fan didn't rush to participate in the selection tests. Instead, he observed how others were doing. Eventually, he let Zheng Yu and Zheng Hua participate in events like high jump, long jump, pole vault, and sprints, which had lower height and weight requirements. The two were quite young, and these events were their best chance to stand out and qualify for the competitions. It was noteworthy that there were over 3,000 people visiting the moon for the first time, and more than 2,000 were participating in the selection, most of whom were adults. Without some strategy, the chances for the two of them to register would be slim. When visiting the moon for the first time, the adaptation to the low-gravity environment varied among individuals, and physical advantages were not as pronounced as on Earth. The two children actually had a bit of an edge in their performance. Zheng Yu participated in the high jump and pole vault selection tests, and then tested in the 50-meter sprint, achieving relatively good results. Yuan estimated that entering the top 100 was no problem. Whether she could win a medal would depend on luck. Zheng Hua participated in the long jump, 100-meter, and 200-meter tests, and he also qualified to register, although his chances of winning a medal were slimmer due to his height of only 1.2 meters, which created a significant gap compared to adults. Dad, I want to register for table tennis. I won the singles championship in the lower grade group at our school sports meeting. Zheng Hua felt that his previous events didn't give him much of an advantage, so he wanted to switch to an event where he could excel. Are you sure you can do it? Zhang Fan had played with his son a few times and didn't see him as particularly skilled, so he questioned his confidence. Don't measure others by your own standards. Horror plays well, and I support him. Li Hong cheered for her son. In the preliminary selection for table tennis, Zheng Hua was matched against a Nordic player who was 1.9 meters tall. Although not overweight, the opponent weighed around 80 to 90 kilograms, which was more than 3 times Zheng Hua's weight of less than 30 kilograms. Unfortunately, height and weight were not advantageous in table tennis. Zheng Hua, who was just slightly taller than the table, managed to score 3 points before being eliminated. In a low-gravity environment, table tennis balls bounced higher and faster, and their descent speed was much slower, which greatly affected high-level players. Conversely, lower-level players had more reaction time and found it easier to play. However, high-level players adapted more quickly and could easily dominate non-professional players with a bit of training. Once both kids finished their tests and saw that Zhang Fan had no intention of participating, Zheng Yu insisted, Dad, you have to participate too. We're counting on you to win the gold medal. You can't slack off. Dad, you should play table tennis too. You can definitely win the championship. Zheng Hua had great confidence in his father's skills. The children all had high expectations for themselves, and Zhang Fan couldn't back down anymore. It was important not to affect his father's image. Then I'll sign up for weightlifting. This event seemed straightforward. Zhang Fan had just looked into the competition categories and had made his choice. Although he felt he had a better chance in long-distance running, it was too time-consuming, and he found it troublesome. The weightlifting event here does not differentiate by gender or weight, consisting only of the snatch and clean and jerk. Over 2,000 sessions. The vast majority of medals have been dominated by men, and it is also one of the events with the smallest strength disparity on Earth. Champions from Earth rarely fail here, although the weights lifted can be quite intimidating. The moon's gravity is 1/6 that of Earth, theoretically allowing humans to lift objects 6 times the weight on Earth, but in reality, very few can achieve this due to various limiting factors. In previous lunar games, many world champions from Earth in weightlifting have participated. The current records are 1,405 kilograms for the clean and jerk and 1,230 kilograms for the snatch. Interestingly, neither record was set by a weightlifting champion, but the athletes who set the records all weighed over 90 kilograms. According to Yuan's information, participating in the weightlifting selection test requires lifting over 500 kilograms in the snatch and over 600 kilograms in the clean and jerk, with a 90 probability of passing. The clean and jerk and snatch are considered 2 separate competitions, but those who sign up for weightlifting typically register for both events together, and the tests are conducted simultaneously. With 3 attempts to choose the best result, Zheng Fan followed the data provided by Yuan Yuan for the test. The barbells used for weightlifting are specially made here. The barbell rod is made of a high-density synthetic material, looking similar to those used on Earth. When Zheng Fan gripped it with one hand, he found it surprisingly heavy. The robot coach in charge of the testing explained with a smile, "The barbell rod weighs 100 kilograms, the smallest weight plate is 50 kilograms, and the largest is 1,000 kilograms. No human has yet lifted 2,1,000 kilogram plates here. We start the test with a weight of 200 kilograms, using 2 of the smallest plates. The weight of 500 kilograms is the barbell rod plus 2 200 kilogram plates, which looks similar to a 100 kilogram barbell on Earth, making it easy to mislead people." Stepping onto the weightlifting platform, Zheng Fan rubbed some magnesium powder on his hands and warmed up his limbs. He smiled at his family in the audience, squatted slightly, gripped the barbell with both hands, exerted a little force to lift it off the ground, and then with a sudden burst of strength, he hoisted the barbell overhead, straightening his bent legs slowly and holding it for 3 seconds. The referee's whistle sounded, signaling a successful lift, and Zheng Fan stepped back, placing the barbell down on the platform. "Go, Dad!" Zheng Hua shouted from the audience, creating an atmosphere like an official competition. Zheng Fan quickly gestured for his son to be quieter. "You lifted that easily. How much do you want to add for the second attempt?" The coach asked. "Let's double it. Let's try 1,000 kilograms." Even though he had stopped his son, Zheng Fan still wanted to show off a bit. Not every group of visitors had heavyweight competitors, and past champions in weightlifting, whether in the snatch or clean and jerk, mostly did not exceed 1,000 kilograms. In private tests, Zheng Fan had previously lifted 200 kilograms in the snatch, and theoretically, he should have no problem lifting 5 times that weight here. The robotic coach added 2 200 kilograms plates and 2 50 kilograms plates to each end of the barbell, personally shook it with both hands, then placed it back on the platform, signaling that he could begin. Zheng Fan first tried the clean and jerk, which is essentially a 2-step lifting process. He successfully lifted it overhead without feeling particularly strained. After the referee signaled it was valid, he attempted the snatch. It felt to him as if the weight hadn't doubled. He sensed only a 30 increase in effort to lift it, making him think breaking the record would be too difficult. However, he decided against it, opting to stay humble and giving up on his third attempt. Stepping down from the weightlifting platform, Zheng Fan hadn't even broken a sweat when his son, Zheng Hua, rushed over and asked, "Dad, how much did you lift? Can you compete?" "Haha, you underestimate me too much. I'm aiming for the championship. Qualifying is a must." Zheng Fan couldn't resist the urge to pat his son's head, but thinking of the chalk dust on his hands, he retracted. Zheng Yu kindly handed him a wet tissue. "Dad, you still need to sign up for another event. This is only 2. Zheng Yu reminded him. "Then I'll sign up for javelin. The test is relatively simple." Zheng Fan preferred to keep things straightforward. Events like javelin, discus, and shot put used standard equipment from Earth, which wouldn't achieve 6 times the effect. Instead, being too light could affect actual performance. Currently, they were specially designed with weights 3 to 5 times heavier, making them more suitable for competitions on the moon. Zheng Fan threw the javelin 3 times, achieving a best distance of 129 meters, surpassing 80 of previous championship records, ensuring his qualification for the competition was secure. Chapter 244. Credit points at first glance. The streets of Chaoga City resembled those of Earth, but they were much cleaner, and the buildings appeared more harmonious and aesthetically pleasing, suggesting a unified planning and design. All streets were pedestrian only, with no wheeled vehicles allowed. Cars, tricycles, bicycles, and even skateboards and balance scooters were prohibited. Only wheelchairs and strollers were exceptions, though these were rarely seen. Even those with amputated limbs could receive free, brainwave-controlled mechanical prosthetics here, as long as their brains had autonomous consciousness. They could move as freely as anyone else, making walking normal and eliminating the desire to use wheelchairs. As for strollers, they seemed unnecessary, as an infant's weight here was equivalent to a brick on Earth, making pushing a stroller more cumbersome. Moreover, there were fully free childcare facilities providing meticulous care from robots, so mothers needing to take care of their children didn't exist here. For short distances, walking was the only option, while for longer distances, a free underground transit system could be used. Rows of small houses, each 4 square meters in size, were visible along the streets. By using a touchscreen or voice commands to input their desired destination, legal commands would be confirmed and the doors would open automatically. Once inside, the underground transit system would safely and quickly take them to their destination. Whether visitors or permanent residents, anyone here does not need to spend money. As long as they have a legal residence, they can order food for free and enjoy services similar to those on a spacecraft. Meals can be taken care of without leaving their homes, and there are public canteens throughout various residential areas in the city where they can eat for free. Of course, For those who wish to enjoy different services, there are high-end restaurants, bars, coffee shops, tea houses, malls, and supermarkets that require spending personal credit points instead of currency. These points cannot be exchanged for money. Everyone receives 10 credit points for free on their first visit to the moon, and for each day spent here afterward. 1 point is automatically added. If someone has a job or makes other contributions, such as winning a gold medal or placing in the top 10 in a sports event, they will also earn points. Violating the rules here will result in a deduction of points, and if a person's points fall below 5, they will be sent back to Earth and cannot return for 5 years. After living here for a full year, residents can apply to convert their points into currency used on Earth, with 1 point typically redeemable for 10,000 units of currency, subject to normal fluctuations, but not significantly. This policy is the biggest attraction for many to settle on the moon. 6 years ago, this policy was implemented, and the number of visitors to the moon quickly exceeded 2 million each year, limited by the capacity of the spacecraft. More than 150,000 visitors apply for permanent residency annually, and as long as they have no criminal records or debts within 3 years, they can be allocated housing. While applying for permanent residency is not difficult, fewer than 1/3 of those who stay for a full year manage to do so. And of those who persist, less than 1/10 accumulate over 100 points. Here, not only are free meals and housing provided, but there are also no costs for utilities like water, electricity, gas, property management, or broadband. Residents receive 2 sets of free clothing annually, and cleaning of rooms and laundry is handled by robots. Personal hygiene products are provided as needed, and there is a free haircut once a month, along with complete free medical care and transportation, allowing for a lifestyle with 0 expenses. In addition to these free services, there are numerous strict prohibitions, and violations result in point deductions. Wastefulness is prohibited. All tobacco use, including e-cigarettes, is banned, with more severe consequences for marijuana and drug use. All drinking, including beer, is forbidden. Gambling, violence, foul language, lies, defamation, insults, coercion, and harm to others are also prohibited. Everyone is monitored around the clock, and even when alone. Violations are not allowed. Minor violations incur a deduction of 10 credit points for the first offense, 20 for the second, 30 for the third, and so on. In cases of severe violations, a single infraction can result in a complete loss of credit points and immediate return to Earth. Despite this, every year, tens of thousands of millionaires are created, and these individuals generate a tremendous advertising effect when they return home. The opportunities for making money here are much greater than winning the lottery. Since then, tickets for lunar travel have never had trouble selling out, with bookings extending 3 months into the future, and the scale of several cities has been continuously expanding. Later, the Foundation initiated Mars immigration and adopted similar policies, quickly leading to a rise in the resident population, which reached nearly 8 million across 12 cities on Mars in just a few years. At first glance, the rules seem quite strict. New arrivals often find their credit points depleted within a month, but those who can persist for 3 months gradually form habits that make things much easier later on. If they can maintain a fitness routine and learn new skills, they can earn additional points and secure employment, bringing them closer to wealth. For first-time lunar travelers, the primary training content revolves around these various rules. Over the years, millions of tourists have returned, and many are already familiar with these rules, even undergoing self-training on Earth to avoid being sent back, eagerly waiting to come here for prosperity. This has led to urban development lagging behind the increasing demand for immigrants, necessitating stricter residency requirements to retain more high-quality talent. The majority come here to seek wealth, but there are also many who arrive for education or research, as well as some who are drawn to the rules and want to see what an ideal society looks like. Many have adapted to life here, returning to Earth as millionaires or even multimillionaires, only to find themselves feeling out of place, often thinking of coming back, as life here feels more comfortable and free. The rules here are clear, determined by an intelligent system, with no human interference. There is no need to worry about sudden violent attacks. Anything outside the rules is permissible. No one is above anyone else, and everyone can pursue their interests. If one prefers not to work, they can relax without worry. The Strategic Committee of the Foundation is responsible for formulating and modifying the rules, while the board oversees and approves these changes. Management and service functions on the moon are carried out by superintelligent systems and various robots, with the nominal mayor being a member of the Strategic Committee, primarily responsible for identifying gaps and submitting regular operational reports without intervening in specific matters. Everyone must adhere to the same rules, with no exceptions, and robots will not treat anyone differently based on their identity. What once seemed like a vague idea has surprisingly been realized perfectly, almost like a dream. After testing at the stadium, the family took a stroll around the streets, with Li Hong proudly introducing the situation to Zheng Fan, acknowledging her significant contributions to everything here. Her previous work in brainwave medicine brought health to many, which she found meaningful, and after Zhang Fan fell asleep. Her work with the Foundation provided her with a greater sense of accomplishment as they were exploring the future of humanity. Some of the rules here have already been gradually implemented in a certain region, and the effects have been quite good. In the future, they will be gradually promoted nationwide. The Sahara base currently under construction is also the Foundation's most important pilot project abroad. Half of the students at Shinong University come from Africa, and it will be our main development direction in the future. After years of experience, Li Hong has completely transformed, shedding any traces of her former nursing career, evolving into a gentle yet strong, meticulous businesswoman. It's no wonder her two children are so afraid of their mother. After strolling around the streets and having dinner at a restaurant, Li Hong has been to the moon many times, and her points have reached 4 digits, making her quite affluent here, so it's natural for her to treat others. Surprisingly, a meal for 4 cost over a dozen points, which, according to the exchange rate, is equivalent to over 100,000 in local currency. Judging by the restaurant's business, there are quite a few diners, indicating a significant wealth gap in the point system here. After dinner, they returned to the hotel and were notified that all 3 of them had ranked within the top 100 in various tests and could register for the competition. Chapter 245. Gold medal. The 2157th Lunar Games are held at the Disong Sports Center in Chaga City. This comprehensive sports complex can accommodate over 200,000 spectators for various competitions. It features standard athletic fields as well as several other types of competition venues. Specifically built for the daily Lunar Games, all events will conclude within a single day, with awards presented immediately after each event. Everyone can purchase lottery tickets using personal credit points via their smartphones or self-service lottery machines, betting on the champion of a particular event, with each ticket costing 1 point and allowing only 1 purchase per event. Correct guesses earn 10 points. Thus, this sporting event is not only an unforgettable experience for tourists, but also one of the main entertainment activities for local residents. Only a few people are working, while many others seek entertainment to pass the time. In addition to the Lunar Games specifically prepared for first-time visitors, there are various competitions and exchange activities for permanent residents, including athletics, various ball games, reading, writing, painting, singing, dancing, etc. If you have a particular skill, you can find a platform to showcase it here. If there are no corresponding events or activities, you can initiate and organize one, as long as enough participants register and the event is successfully held. Both organizers and participants can earn substantial points. If it evolves into a regular event, you could consider it a successful venture and treat it as a fixed job. When the family arrived at the sports center, everyone except Li Hong was overwhelmed by the massive crowd. Everywhere they looked, there were people. Local residents do not need to buy tickets to watch the games, but must make reservations in advance. Tourists from the same group do not need reservations and can enter for free, since the competitions have not yet started and the audience is still entering. It is bustling with activity. Li Hong led them to the check-in area, where athletes verify their identities and receive a numbered vest. The vest indicates the event, venue, and time, and wearing it allows them to enter the corresponding venue to check in and participate in the competition. All track and field events are held at the main stadium, which has the largest audience and the most events. Weightlifting and table tennis, which are popular, have their own dedicated venues. To ensure that all competitions conclude within a day, most events do not have preliminary, semifinal, and final rounds. For field events, athletes sign in at the competition area, receive their numbers, and then wait for their turn to compete. Each athlete has 3 attempts, and the best score is recorded. After all athletes who signed in within the designated time have completed their attempts, the system automatically ranks the top 3 scores as first, second, and third place. If there are ties, those athletes will compete again, and everyone has only 1 chance. After determining the top 3, awards are presented immediately. Track events are conducted in groups of 10, with only 1 opportunity to compete, and the top 3 scores are taken directly after all races are completed. This schedule suits the preferences of the athletes well, being efficient and saving time while reducing complications. Most of the participating visitors do not know each other, as the games have eliminated the initial 3 major team sports events and consist solely of individual competitions. Athletes can watch the events from the field, but those who interfere with others' competitions will face penalties, and serious cases may lead to disqualification. Zhang Fan signed in for the javelin competition relatively early and waited for about 10 minutes before it was his turn. After completing his 3 throws, there were still dozens of people in line behind him. At the edge of the stadium, the 50-meter sprint competition was underway, one of the most participated events. With particularly fierce competition, Zheng Yu was assigned to the 3rd group and was about to compete, while Zhang Fan cheered for his daughter. Sprinting relies on explosive power, with top performances not differing greatly, and luck plays a significant role. A late start can result in a much poorer time, while an early start counts as a false start and leads to disqualification. Due to the lower gravity on the moon, jumps can be higher, and strides can be longer than on Earth, which has both advantages and disadvantages. The slower landing time results in a decreased stride frequency, and how well one coordinates these factors depends on personal physical condition and intuition. In a competition lasting only a few seconds, this coordination is crucial for success. At the sound of the starting gun, 10 athletes burst forward simultaneously, ranging in age and gender. In this type of race, taller individuals with longer legs have an advantage, with a height of just over 1. For meters, Zheng Yu was the shortest among the 10 competitors. It was evident that she was running her hardest but still finished among the last few. After the race, Zhang Fan went over to give her a hug and comfort her by patting her head. You did great, don't be discouraged. Participation is what matters. Failure is also a valuable experience. Zheng Yu's personality is quite similar to Li Hong's, being very competitive and particularly sensitive to the experience of failure. I'm fine. I have the high jump coming up, and my light body is actually a big advantage in that. Zheng Yu reassured herself. Then go sign in for the high jump. And I'll go check on your brother's 100-meter race. Let us go together. I'm worried he'll cry if he loses. Zheng Yu knew her brother very well. The 100-meter race took place on the long track on the other side of the sports field. Zheng Hua was in the last group. Positioned in the central lane number 5, he stood among a row of athletes, noticeably shorter than everyone else, and also the youngest in the group, surrounded by older siblings, uncles, and aunts who kindly chatted and joked with him. Zheng Hua, however, was neither nervous nor shy. He enjoyed the conversations with everyone. When he saw his father and sister approaching, Zheng Hua ran out of the line to talk. Sister, have you finished your race? How did you do? Don't mention it. None of us in our group made it to the top 3. Zheng Yu had already adjusted her mood. Don't be sad. I'll give you my medal. Zheng Hua patted his chest to comfort his sister. You? With your little bean sprout body. I'm just worried you'll cry if you come in last. I've even prepared tissues for you. Zheng Yu scoffed. Dad, look. My sister just likes to criticize me. Zheng Hua turned to complain to Zheng Fan. Then run well, and use your results to counter her. After a few minutes of chatting, it was time for their final group race. 100 people were divided into 10 groups, with 3 minutes allocated for each group to finish, and the entire event was scheduled to be completed in just over half an hour, followed by an awards ceremony within 40 minutes before the next competition began. Everything was very tightly scheduled. A few minutes later, the 100-meter race concluded, and unfortunately, Zheng Yu's prediction came true. Zheng Hua indeed finished last in his group. What made him even more desperate was that despite his best efforts, the athlete who came in second to last was still over 10 meters ahead of him. From the start, the gap only widened, and as he crossed the finish line, the little boy burst into tears. He had never experienced such despair before. At school sports days, he was always in the lead. How had the gap become so large here? The athletes who had just finished their races comforted him with smiles, but the more people tried to console him, the more aggrieved he felt, and the tears flowed even more uncontrollably for several minutes. By the time the awards for the 100-meter race were finished, he was still standing by the track crying. The champion was a young man from Niger in Africa, who hung the gold medal he had just received around Zheng Hua's neck, and, with somewhat clumsy Chinese, comforted him. This medal is for you. Work hard, and I believe when you grow up, you can also win a gold medal. This is an early award for you. Chapter 246. Parkour. Seeing Zheng Hua lose the race and cry sadly, Zheng Yu no longer criticized her brother. She had just experienced that feeling herself, which was truly unpleasant. Zheng Fan didn't offer much consolation to his son, understanding that this was a necessary part of growing up. Children from well-off families often face fewer setbacks, and such a growth process may not be beneficial for them in the long run. In contrast, children who have endured more hardships tend to develop stronger resilience and may achieve greater success in the future. Regarding gifts from strangers, Zheng Hua had been taught from a young age to learn to refuse. The little boy wanted to take off the medal to return it, but Zheng Fan stopped him. This is the older brother's expectation for your future. Accept it. But remember, earn your own gold medal through your efforts, and then return it to him. I'll return 2 gold medals to him then, Zheng Hua declared. Sure, I'm looking forward to that day. The young man with dark skin smiled, revealing his bright white teeth. With this setback as a foundation, the 2 kids, despite not winning any medals in the subsequent competitions, were no longer as discouraged. They were both under 10, and children's emotions come and go quickly. As expected, Zheng Fan won the gold medal in the javelin competition and hung the medal around his daughter's neck after receiving it. Now, both his son and daughter had one each, so there was no favoritism. After the track and field events, they had to switch venues. Zheng Hua went to the table tennis hall to compete, while Zheng Fan went to the weightlifting hall. Fortunately, the 2 venues were very close, so Zheng Fan could watch his son play after finishing his own competition without any delays. The schedule set by the artificial intelligence was very reasonable, allowing them to perfectly stagger their times to participate in various competitions. If there were any scheduling conflicts, a reminder would pop up during registration to avoid wasting opportunities. Having already secured a gold medal, Zhang Fan had no plans to break any records. He increased the weight by 200 kilograms compared to the test, lifting both the clean and jerk and the snatch at 1,200 kilograms. By the time he arrived for the competition, most of the other competitors had already completed their lifts. Although he didn't break any records, he still managed to win 2 championships and received 2 gold medals. He then went with his assistant, Yuan, to the table tennis hall to meet his wife and daughter and cheer for his son. The table tennis competition involved 100 participants facing off in a single elimination format. In the first 3 rounds, the system randomly selected a few lucky competitors to advance directly to the next round. After these rounds, 16 players would be determined, and then the competition continued in